except for apologies from Mayor Hayes and Councillor Joseph Burns today. No other apologies, obviously. So we have somebody move that those apologies be accepted, please. Councillor Curtis, seconded by Councillor Daniels. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. So is there any leaves of absence? Councillor, for the next council meeting, which is the... Money, the date?
The 11th of May.
The 11th of May. Thank you. No others? Okay, so somebody move that the leave of absence for Councillor Cypher be accepted, please. Councillor Carpenter, seconded Councillor Rembelcombe. All in favour? Yeah, I'm like a doll with that moving head because you've got to move from there to there. The acknowledgement of country. I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Thank you. We shall go on to the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 13th of April. Catch up. So somebody move that those, Councillor Carpenter and a seconder, Councillor Rembelcombe. Is there anything in those? Just have a look at them, please. Is there anything in those that needs? Is anybody aware of? No. All in favour of those minutes? Carried. Thank you. Against? No. Did you? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. Thanks. Thanks. Marnie will have to keep track of all those as well. So business arising out of the minutes? No. And we go to the review of the outstanding meeting actions. And is there anything on there that anybody needs to make comment about? Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just noted on the 8th of December 2021, the decision about the Net Zero Greenhouse Gases Action Plan 2030. Is that it's been deferred? Has there been any date put against that?
Oh, no. Councillor Moriarty, I think you're looking at the upcoming agenda items.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I am.
Yeah, so meeting actions.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
So we'll come to those in a second. So there's no other outstanding meeting actions. We shall move on to the upcoming agenda items. And Councillor Moriarty, I'll defer to the CEO about the item that you're talking about.
So your question is when that is coming to council? So is that the item, just looking to the General Manager of Communities acting, is that the item relating to the net zero emissions draft plan?
Yes, Ms CEO, on the 27th of May, that item's coming.
To Strategic and Briefing Forum?
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you very much. Just one more, Madam Chair. The other one is the Blackwater and Blackwater East PDA revocation, and it's deferred to, I know it's been noted, but when in discussions we probably hadn't said that when that might be coming back. that it was deferred. I didn't know if there was a date set for that to be coming back. Sorry. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. So the Blackwater Revocation project, we're dealing with the state at the moment, EDQ, about some outstanding infrastructure charges. So once we have a better position on that, we'll be able to come back to council with an update. Unfortunately, the ball is in their court at the moment, so we're ready to go from what we need to do, but there's a couple of areas that need to be ticked off from EDQ.
Thank you. So those two items will be noted. Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Conflict of interest. Now, I do have a conflict of interest in item number 11.1.1, which is the regional show sponsorship item. We'll be leaving the meeting for that sector, and the CEO will take over the chair just for that item. Thank you. Are there any other conflicts of interest? Councillor Daniels?
Chair, I'd like to raise a conflict of interest for item 11.1.2, 11.1.2, that's right. I have a declarable conflict of interest arising from the fact that I own shares in a telecommunications organisation separate to this one. I wish to participate in the decision, and I acknowledge that the eligible councillors must now determine, pursuant to section 150ES of the Local Government Act 2009, whether I may participate in the decision or whether I should leave the meeting for the decision. So I will leave it for you to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an ongoing issue, Councillor Daniels, isn't it? So, yes, we have... So, I'd like a motion to accept Councillor Curtis, to accept Councillor Daniels' attendance to for this item. A seconder? Councillor Cypher, and all those in favour. Thank you. You may stay, Councillor Daniels. Petitions, Mrs. CEO, any petitions?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Now, we are going to have a slight change up of the agenda, as we have representative from CHDC in Peter Dowling here, who does have to go to another meeting. So we will bring forward the 11.5.1, which is the Central Highlands Development Corporation, Central Highlands Resource Roundtable, CH Invest. I'll pass over to the CEO to introduce Peter, please.
Thank you, Acting Chair. So the Central Highlands Development Corporation is facilitating and supporting a roundtable of mining companies called the Central Highlands Resources Roundtable, and they have a project currently called CH Invest, which will be explained as to what that project is by our presenter Peter Dowling. And so CHDC's role is to support the roundtable and is playing banker for the CH Invest and facilitator for assisting the mining companies and council as a member of that roundtable to deliver this project. So the item today is a request for a small contribution towards the project, which is matching the contribution of a number of mining companies also co-contributing. So I'll hand over to Peter Dowling from Central Highlands Development Corporation to present the request and explain the project. Thanks, Peter, for attending today in Arjun Bloomer's absence.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Council. As the CEO has indicated, CHDC has facilitated in partnership with Council an engagement process over the last 3 years called the Central Highlands Resources Roundtable. Effectively, it's a collaboration of all the miners in the region, Council and CHDC, and one of its focus of recent times has been on looking at a model for sustainability in terms of procurement and investment in the region. So a number of you may be aware of BMA's program called CRES, which is the local buying program, which has a local buying foundation attached to it. So not dissimilar to that is the concept of having a regional local buying program, which has a social investment aspect to it as well. And so we put the concept to the round table. They were all collectively interested in that approach. We then sought financial contributions, which we have a number, and that's really pleasing. Those that wish not to contribute still wish to contribute data and information and access to people for the actual study, BMA included, who have their own vehicle to do this work. So very pleased with that outcome. As part of that process of gaining commitment, Council also put forward their interest to commit, and today obviously is a recommendation to consider that. In addition, CHDC is committing $10,000 to that consultancy fee, and will also, in kind through my role, project manage that consultancy as well. So I do commend the opportunity. It is investigative work. It may go nowhere, but I think the opportunity to at least come out with some regional data from our miners in particular, but also Council as a major employer in the region, on their procurement practices, on their local spend, on their supply chain, also on their social investment, is going to be quite important to us to have as baseline data. It will also feed into the sustainability activity there, which is, Council's reliance on a rate base that may not be there over time, and how do we invest in the opportunity to progress through those miners as well as Council. I'll leave it at that point unless there are questions to be asked.
Yes, Councillor Daniels.
Thank you very much. Look, I'm very supportive of this concept. It's something that has been discussed across the community for a number of years, to have a collective of organisations working together to achieve a greater outcome. And do you think the data that comes from the data gathering process, will some of that be available externally, or have you had a thoughts around that yet? Thank you.
Haven't had a detailed thought about that as yet. My understanding would be that in the first instance, we've got to be true to the Resources Roundtable participants, and we will certainly be presenting the full sort of consultancy response and findings to that grouping in the first instance. Where that group wants to take it, I think is for discussion. Yeah.
Councillor Brown.
Peter, is it over a defined area, or is it all like Isaac, Banana?
No, Councillor Bridgeman, it is a defined area for Central Highlands, thus the title of the Central CH Invest concept. It's all about our region. So it's trying to define whether there is enough interest from our miners and from Council to look at a collective model of local procurement and investment. And the investment arm of that is more around strategic investment. It's not coming up with another way of creating donations for our local community. It's strategic investment, in my view, but that needs to be looked at throughout the consultancy period. But certainly just the region.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, thanks. And Councillor Siver.
Thank you. So this money, is it for this financial year, and is it a one-off, and where in the budget is it sitting currently?
I can answer that question through the chair.
Thank you.
In terms of Council's budget?
Well, that's where it's coming from, I'm assuming. I'm not taking it out of my own hip pocket.
That's correct. So it would, the CEO's budget has some unspent consultancy funds which are able to be repurposed to this, and that would come through via Budget Review 4.
And is this a one-off, or are we going to be asked again next year for the same?
I guess that will depend on the outcome of the investigation, which is the CH Invest concept, but that would come back to Council. I haven't put it in the budget for next year. I don't know what the outcome will be.
Oh, Janice. Oh, sorry, Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. I was really pleased to hear about the social investment potential as part of that procurement program. If it does take the format of the CRES and the Local Buying Foundation program. So that's really important. I'm sure there'll be criteria set at some stage if it progresses. So, yeah, I think it's a great initiative. I did have concerns about where it was coming from the budget as well. And I know, having been involved in a similar procurement study once upon a time, we looked at the local region and then Queensland, Australia and international, where those companies were buying from, which was quite an interesting exercise as well. And from the reason that what might have been bought outside the region, where there was potential to attract that into the region. Sorry if I'm waffling too much there, but anyway, excited about that data and glad it's going to be shared. But one of the lessons learnt when we actually did that study was including contractors, because a lot of the companies have some big contracting companies as delivering their operations, or a significant part of their operations. Is there scope to be including any of some major contractors as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So the intent is really to capture their full spend,
okay.
wherever that may be, but also then to bring it back to our region and understand what they are actually spending in region at the present. So it's understanding the full opportunity, but also what's actually occurring now. I think also the supply chain side of that we need to limit in this particular investigation. We've only got so much time and dollars to spend with consultants, so we just need to be wary. I mean, in our economic profile, if you look that up, there's over $2 billion of industry that's out there that's could be in our supply chain. So we're not going to go there with this particular study, but it is certainly mindful. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Peter, this would certainly be a good trial to do, because when you look at the working group, there was five members there actually in the working group, and it will hopefully show the other members of the round table that the opportunities that are there for them to be involved as well. It always seems to be the case that you'll get a few that are really go-ahead opportunity is seen. However, others will sit back and say, well, we'll wait and see what happens in the first year.
Absolutely, and I think the benefit is that after a number of years of having this engagement process, there's been a lot of great outcomes throughout it, but actually getting some of the miners to put some dollars on the table for a joint exercise is not an easy thing. As with any sector of our community or industry, that collaboration takes time. Yeah. And some are not interested in the sense of they've got other, if I talk about one miner on our eastern boundary, very interested in the group, but they'd rather put their money into childcare, which makes perfect sense. So it's not that they're against this concept, it's where their priorities lie and their budgets lie in terms of where they want to put their spend. Yeah, sure. So with you, Deputy Mayor, I think it's a great opportunity to test the collaboration of these entities with ourselves, bringing ourselves to the fore as well.
Thank you, Peter. No other comments? So the officer recommendation there is that Central Highlands Regional Council approve a funding contribution of $13,774, inclusive of GST, to partner with Central Highlands Resource Roundtable members and Central Highlands Development Corporation in the investigation of the CH Invest concept. We have somebody move that, please. Councillor Brimblecombe, seconded by Councillor Carpenter. All in favour? Sorry. Brimblecombe and Carpenter. Sorry, thank you. So I'm going too quick. Slow down, Chris. So, again, all in favour? Against? So that's one against. Do you want your... No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Excellent. So we'll return to the beginning of the decision reports. And the first one is item 11.1.1, which was regional show sponsorship, and I shall leave the meeting. Thank you, Mrs. CEO.
Just got to find my correct place in the agenda now that we've gone back. Thank you. This is the first time I've had to chair an item during the council meeting, so bear with me. Okay, so item 11.1.1, regional show sponsorship. This item is being presented, authorised by John McDougall, General Manager of Communities. Today we have Lisa Donlan, who's Acting General Manager of Communities, and I'll hand over to Lisa to present the item.
Thank you, Ms CEO. The purpose of this report is for the consideration of sponsorship for the regional show societies for the 22 regional show events in Emerald, Springsure and Capella. I'm going to hand over for the report to Acting Coordinator, Sport and Recreation, Georgia Down, and Emma Tina, who's the Acting Manager, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Acting General Manager Donlan. Through the Chair, I am here today to present to you requests for sponsorship on behalf of the Central Highlands Regional Show Societies. The regional shows are an integral part of the Central Highlands, providing an event to showcase the region's agriculture, businesses, schools, and cooking talents, and so much more. Agricultural shows have been taking place within the Central Highlands for over 90 years and are a fond memory for many residents of the Central Highlands. As previously reported to Council, historically there has been an inconsistent application of support across the region regarding regional show events. In 2021, Council aimed to streamline the process to reflect the sponsorship policy, and this was demonstrated in the 2021 endorsement of show support. In the report table in front of you, you will see the approved 2021 sponsorship, the 2022 sponsorship requests, and officer recommendations. The 2022 officer recommendations are for the Emerald Show Society to receive $2,500 cash, a $7,500 electricity fee waiver, plus $5,000 in-kind works, including bunting, signage, and a road corridor permit. The Capella Show Society to receive $3,000 cash and $2,500 of in-kind contributions, including cleaning supplies and cleaning assistance. And the Springsure Show Society to receive $3,000 cash support. The total of the recommended sponsorship for 2022 is $23,500. In 2021, Council provided $20,000 worth of sponsorship to the shows. The above support does not include the Comet Show Society, who applied early for a cash donation of $3,000, which was approved by General Manager McDougall under Council sponsorship policy. The recommendation does not include any waste requests, as this is the responsibility of the user, as stated in the Water and Waste for Sport and Active Recreation Organisations policy, which relates to the game plan agreement which all show societies have signed that are on council-controlled land. All applicants will be advised of the approved sponsorship in writing. The show societies will also be advised that council must be recognised as a sponsor of their event. We are happy to answer any questions you may have for endorsement.
Any questions, councillors?
Yes, please. In the policy... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Moriarty, I didn't see you there. I'll come to you after Councillor Cypher.
In the policy, does it state and it might be a different policy I'm thinking of. Does it state that the financials have to be presented so that we can see how much money is in their accounts to see whether they can actually afford this themselves? I mean, this was raised when the Sunflower Festival requested their money, and we actually went to great lengths to, they had provided financial statements and not just their statement, not their financials, which was fine. But is this the same case with this donation?
Through the chair, Councillor Seifert, in the current policy, it does not state that they have to provide their financials for requests.
Okay.
So the question was whether the financials have to be presented to council, is that right? Yes. My understanding was that we do check their financials, and but that it doesn't have to be presented to council. Have I got that wrong, Acting General Manager Communities?
Thank you, Ms CEO. We don't check their specific financial reports. We do have copies of their financial reports, and they are considered, but they're not presented to council. So they are considered in the recommendation.
So we consider under the policy, we get their financials, and we consider under the policy where they're able to afford to deliver the project.
Yes, that's right.
But that doesn't, under the policy, have to be presented to council.
That's correct.
That doesn't preclude councillors from asking for it, of course.
Well, we've been asking for these particular ones for quite some time.
Okay.
Particularly the Emerald one.
Councillor Moriarty?
Yeah, thank you. And I must admit, when I was reading, didn't know whether there was separate sponsorship and donations policies, and I should have gone back and had a look as well. So, but I just assumed this is sponsorship, so it might be different. I don't know. And therefore, the financials are not part of this one, but obviously they are. So.
Through the chair, councillor, there are two separate policies at the moment that are relevant: the donations policy and the sponsorship policy. We've considered this under the sponsorship policy. Both policies are currently under review and scheduled to come back to councillors for further discussion and approval to try and streamline the choices so that there's going to be just one policy in future, so we get some consistency with how these are coming to councillors.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors, before we put the recommendation?
Sorry, I did remember what my question was. Sorry, I was a little bit confused when I originally read about the previous years. The Emerald Show Society have been invoiced for $7,500 electricity bill following their event. So under the new community organisation tenure of council owned or controlled land policy, that's how we don't charge now for that 7,500. We won't be invoicing. That's now in kind. I just wanted to clarify that was the case. Well, okay. Thank you.
Councillor, yes, that's correct. So in previous years, we've provided, say, a cash donation and then invoiced the show societies for electricity after that. To simplify the process, the recommendation is that rather than giving them cash and then asking for it back in payment of the electricity account, we just waive the electricity account and provide a lesser cash sponsorship. So the result, the benefit to the show society is the same as previous years.
Just Councillor Daniels.
To the CEO, this might be Tamani. I see that the report states that the funds are available. Have these amounts been budgeted for, or will it be taken from, I guess, maybe other events?
So I can take that one. There are adequate funds in the sponsorship budget to cover this. we don't separate out at budget time what the individual funds are for. It depends on requests that come in and decisions of council, but there are adequate funds in the total of the budget for sponsorship to cover this. Okay, councillors. Oh, thank you. I was just going to call for a councillor to, the recommendation before us, therefore, is that Central Highlands Regional Council approves the requested sponsorship for the following regional shows for 2022, which are in the table below, which I'll take as read. I'm looking for a councillor to move that motion. Councillor Daniels has indicated to move it.
Yes, I'm happy to move it, but I would like to say that for future requests that we update that policy so that we have sufficient information or the information that councillors are requesting. Thank you.
We'll take that on board for the policy review that's underway. I'll take a note of that.
I am happy to move this.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels, and a seconder for that motion, Councillor Curtis. All in favour? Thank you, councillors. Thanks, officers. And we can call Councillor Rolfe, or Deputy Mayor, Acting Chair, back into the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. Welcome back, Deputy Mayor and Acting Chair. I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you.
To chair the rest of the meeting.
And so we move on to 11.1.2, which is the material change of use, Bluff Telecommunications Tower. And I'll hand over to Acting GM, Lisa.
Thank you, Chair. We're asking Council with this report to consider a development application regarding the Bluff Telecommunications Tower. I'll hand over immediately to Manager Kirsten Byrne.
Thank you, Lisa. Through you, Madam Chair. The report before us today is for the telecommunications facility at 2 Graham Street, Bluff, and the officer's recommendation today is approval subject to the following conditions. So I'll hand to Kate Isles, Acting Coordinator, Development and Planning, to run through the conditions.
Thank you, Kirsten. Through you, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, the development application before you today is for a telecommunications facility at 2 Graham Street, Bluff. More specifically, this tower is a fixed wireless network tower and is proposed to be located in the southeast corner of the existing lot, which is improved by the existing workers' camp. As the site is zoned township, telecommunications facility will be subject to impact assessment in this zone. The applicant carried out this formal public notification between the 21st of February and the 11th of March 2022. During this notification period, Council received one properly made submission and a further submission, including a petition with 66 signatures, was also received. However, was submitted to Council outside the formal notification period and is therefore deemed to be not properly made. Notwithstanding this, the officers have considered matters raised in both of the submissions. There were two key matters that were raised by submitters, the first being the suitability of the location and its compliance with the Telecommunications Facilities Code, and the second being health concerns. In relation to health concerns, it is important to note that the design and the operation of the tower is actually regulated by the Australian Government through the Radio Communications Electromagnetic Radiation Human Exposure Standard 2014. And the purpose of this standard is to regulate the performance of mobile station radio communication transmitters to protect health and safety of people who may be exposed to electromagnetic radiation. In this regard, the planning scheme at AO3 does include assessment benchmarks reflecting these standards, and the proposed recommendation to you today does include reference to this legislation as well. In regards to the location of the facility, it is noted that it would be difficult for any new telecommunications facility to achieve compliance with AO 1.3 of the Telecommunications Code, specifically the requirement for 500 metres from any educational establishment, childcare centre or park, or 400 metres from any residential use. Councillors, as you would be aware, the township of Bluff is relatively small and has a general radius of 500 metres from the corner of Main and Church Street. making it nearly impossible for any new facility to satisfy AO 1.3. So further, this type of tower and technology is actually not able to co-locate with any existing facilities. In this regard, any new facility would need to provide a performance outcome against PO1 of the code, which relates to being not visually prominent and does not adversely impact on the amenity of nearby residential, community or other sensitive uses. The officers consider that the type of facility and the requirement of this facility to be effective in its performance means that it does need to be located within the urban area. The height of the facility at 30 metres diameter and 60 centimetre diameter at its base and 15 centimetres at its top is not dissimilar to other towers that we see across the region, and its need to enable connectivity to homes and specifically to the rooftop of homes. Officers have, however, proposed a condition, 1.7b, to ensure that the facility is painted in a colour to reduce its visual prominence. Councillors, overall, the proposed facilities are considered to satisfy the requirements of our planning scheme, and when considered with other relevant matters such as improved connectivity and network to the community, it is recommended for approval subject to conditions today. Happy to take any questions, councillors.
Thanks, Kate. Questions? Councillor Moriarty?
I suppose I've got a few questions and comments. First off, just to put the population of Bluff in perspective with the region, as you know, Bluff's population is 373 at the 2016 census, which was interesting because Doringa is 278. Dingo is 340, Rolleston is 309. So while they're all around the same sort of population, Bluff is that little bit bigger. Just to put that in perspective. Look, as I've previously said, thank you very much for ensuring that the petition was considered as part of this. And I know the letter is dated the 14th of March, so I think there was, people were trying to get it in or whatever to meet that deadline. So thank you very much. I think, as we all know, telecommunications is definitely something that's needed for Bluff, as it is for many other communities across the region. So I think that the community's very keen, absolutely, to support that they have improved telecommunications. I think that the thing that people were quite concerned with from, as we're picking up in your report here, that is anecdotally that it could be the electromagnetic radiation waves that people are worried about. And the other one was location, which you've mentioned in there that that the location has to be in a spot that it reaches the maximum number of houses or facilities inside the town and surrounds. But I think most of the comments there, as that's on the petition, especially and in the letters, is about too close and the location. So, as you rightly say, really, even if it is up on Bluff Hill, as was suggested, I think other suggestions I've heard from people is that perhaps it's put on a council block, such as the transfer station, or even on sporting field, the football fields or whatever. So it is, even if that was put in those locations, it still would be within that 500 metres potentially as well. So, but the one thing that I think that I'm picking up, and quite rightly so, over my time, you know, I've heard of stories not only here in Emerald, but in many communities, not just even in Australia, but where, you know, people have had a new tower coming in, a telecommunications tower, and people do worry about the health impacts of the electromagnetic waves. So I was very pleased to see the brochure that was included with our details, which outlines that that this type of Wi-Fi or base antenna or whatever it is, even though it's huge, emits less electromagnetic waves than sunlight, around the same as microwaves. So I'm hoping that it's printed there, so that's what the facts are. I think that seems to be the one thing, particularly in relation to location, that people are quite worried about. And just looking at the population, I couldn't help but do a little bit of research and found that there's actually 15.2% of the population is between 0 and 14. So, which means that in numbers, sorry, that's 58. So take that away from 373 is 315, and you've got your. I took it as 67 because we had the extra letter. So that worked out to be around 21% of the adult population. So in my way of thinking is that, and a lot of these people are very prominent Bluff residents that are very well aware of everything that's going on. And so I'm just putting it to you that I think that if the people of Bluff actually received some good information, if the company did go out and talk to people at Bluff, then the people of Bluff might have had a better understanding of what that facility is. And there's a couple of things. Bluff residents, is my understanding that they have to go to Blackwater to pick up their mail. There's no mail service, so there might be a few things with the company's communication strategy that meant that they probably didn't. It's probably better off that they do some door knocking or have a newsletter or something that's left at Blackwater Post Office, which the community will pick up. So my concern is that by passing this without probably a bit of a stipulation, that the company makes sure that they're actually giving better information and facts to Bluff community residents.
Councillor Moriarty, can I just ask Kate to respond to
Thank you.
that first, please?
Sure. Through you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Moriarty, when it comes to notification, there's certain minimum requirements that are obviously set out in the Planning Act. As it relates to us as the assessing officers, they have complied with their requirements. Having said that, there were certain things that we did state with these particular applicants as part of the pre-lodgement. That's only ever advice that we can provide to them. We know that these types of facilities generally do attract a fair bit of attention. We obviously had one similar a couple of weeks ago in Doringa where we got no submissions. So it depends on each of the communities. As we're aware that it was really only as a result of the petition that was lodged that further communications was actually issued to the residents through the school and other mechanisms. So in some respects, we probably would have, like you said, would have liked that to have been done up front, but certainly as it relates to us as the assessing officers, they've done the minimum requirements that we are allowed to see as it relates to the notification.
Yeah, and I think in the minimum requirements somewhere along the line, without without probably specific information. There's what people perceive as what that tower may be, which is probably a radio tower with additional, a bit higher or lower waves, whatever it is, radiation. So I think that's the issue, because as I've been told, the tower is less than probably 3 or 4 metres away from the closest house it's going to be located near. It's, you know, within 80 metres of the school, within a very short distance, as you know, of the population of the town. So, so as you can imagine, if there's this many people didn't get information or felt they needed more information, then I feel there's an issue there as well. And I'm not sure if it's possible to be able to put this on the table to ensure that there's some more communications happen with the community before it's brought back to council, or indeed if there's the ability to, if it's passed today, to add to the resolution that, you know, that the company does, you know, do a little bit more communications and informing community. I just feel that if people were communicated with about the facts, they may have a better picture of what this actually is. I know that's not council's responsibility, but it may end up being that way if we don't.
So, Mrs. CEO, yes.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. So in terms of the resolution, we couldn't pass to require the company to undertake communication. However, our officers can add to that communication. So we don't need to change in the resolution to do that, but that's noted as something that councillors have requested of officers, and we can carry through with that request. There is also a condition, draw councillors' attention to a condition in the draft development permit at the moment that refers to the company's requirements to meet the relevant provisions of the Telecommunications Act and the Australian standard relating to electromagnetic. That condition does not have to be there in the development permit. It can be there. If it is there, then officers will need to carry out an enforcement role to make sure that the company does meet those requirements. But having it in as a condition does not increase the requirements or change the applicability of the requirements in any way. It simply adds a task for officers to undertake enforcement. So it's covered in that way at the moment. That can remain as a condition, or that can be changed to an advisory note, or it can be removed. That's something that's part of the recommendation for councillors to consider.
So there is an addition in the advisory notes. I'm not going to be able to read that from here.
I can read it if you like. Oh, you're right.
The CEO can read it, please. Can you? Yeah. Oh, thanks. It is noted that the design electromagnetic radiation, it's number C in the advisory notes. It is noted that the design and operation of the approved development is to restrict human exposure to electromagnetic radiation in accordance with the Radio Communications Electromagnetic Radiation Human Exposure Standard 2003/2003 and the Radio Protection Standard for maximum exposure levels to radio frequency fields. So that adds to the...
Yeah. And thank you, Madam CEO and Madam Chair. When I seen that there, I felt good. I felt that council was acknowledging. I don't know, like you were saying, it adds extra, but it made me feel that, you know, council was acknowledging what people were saying as well. So I don't know how you might like to modify that, but I'd just like it noted that that was actually in there, and that council was listening to community and considering their concerns around that. So otherwise, whatever needs to happen, but I just want to make sure that people do know that that was added in.
Sure. Mrs. CEO.
So through the chair, as drafted, the recommendation is with that to be included as a condition. There's the option to change that to an advisory note. If councillors would like to do that, then we would need to amend the recommendation.
So the recommendation is to add it as a condition.
So through you, Deputy Mayor, if I can, councillors, the amended resolution would see the deletion of condition 1.9 and it to that content be added through to an advisory note.
So to do that, that would be an amendment if that's what council would like to do. Otherwise, if we leave it as is, then it's a condition.
We don't need that condition in there because it will conform to the Act anyway. So can I move the amendment, please?
Thank you, Councillor Brimcombe. Seconder for the amendment, Councillor Moriarty. So, oh, sorry.
It's been approved, so I can't add any comment now because it's been moved and I can't add the comment.
For the change.
For a question, so it's too late. Isn't it?
So all those in favour of the motion?
Well, sorry, where's the motion now? Sorry,
So the amendment to the, sorry, it's the amendment to the motion. So 1 point.
Yep.
So if I could just say, so the,
Where is the motion?
No, the amendment.
if we could just
is
go to the
1
officer recommendation.
Take out 1.9, correct? And Kirsten,
Add in advisory note C, which is highlighted in yellow for the purpose of just making it clear to see in the chambers. That highlight won't stay in the package. It's just so we could see, because the the recommendation is quite long, so we just wanted to draw your eye to what the proposed change is. So it's striking out condition 1.9, which then shifts all of the conditions up from a numerical point, but considering that electromagnetic radiation element as part of an advisory note. So it's still very much part of the formal package of conditions if council were to resolve today, including the advisory notes.
And sorry, I thought we were actually moving to have that amendment made within the but the resolution's something different. Is that correct? Sorry.
the officer, within the officer recommendation, Councillor Brimblecombe has moved the amendment to the officer recommendation, and they are 1.9 struck out. The numbering then moves up, and the addition of advisory note C. Okay, so Councillor Brimblecombe has moved that amendment, was seconded by Councillor Carpenter, Councillor Moriarty. All those in favour of the amendment? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. So now the officer recommendation reads as on the screen. And I'm not going to read out the whole lot, but that the application for a development permit for a material change of use for a telecommunications facility made by QCN Fibre Company Murray and Associates at 2 Graham Street, Bluff, properly described as Lot 40 CP 887954, is approved and a development permit is issued subject to the following conditions, advisory notes and statement of reasons as per the agenda up there, which is a couple of pages long. So, can we have somebody move that recommendation? Councillor Brimblecombe?
Councillor Sypher wishes to speak.
No, well, it's too late. I have questions to ask and we moved on from that, so that's fine.
Councillor Brimblecombe, seconder, please. Councillor Carpenter? All those in favour of the resolution? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
May I make a suggestion with regards to seating? Since we have a spare spot in this bay, rather than you trying to do a 360 of the room, that we fill that?
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Councillors, thank you very much. We'll move on to 11.1.3, which is a request for application fee waiver, the Ivy Anderson Home Committee, and I will ask Acting GM to introduce, please.
Thank you, Councillor. This paper is to discuss a request for a full fee waiver by the Ivy Anderson Home Committee in Springshaw. I'll hand over to the manager, Kirsten Day.
Thank you, Lisa. Through you, Madam Chair. In February this year, our request was received from the Ivy Anderson Committee for a full fee waiver for development application fees associated with an operational works and plumbing and drainage application, which were yet to be lodged at Council. Those applications have subsequently been lodged with Council in March this year. We spoke with the committee at the time about the process for getting a fee waiver through Council and then the application assessment process. So as you can appreciate, until the fees are paid in full, an application isn't considered properly made. So the advice was provided to the committee to ensure that the process for the applications was maintained while we were taking the report to Council for the fee waiver, that they would pay the fees in full, and then any resolution from Council would adjust those fees. The request was for 100% fee waiver of the operational works and plumbing and drainage applications. The operational works fees were $1,575 and the plumbing and drainage fees were $4,573. With Council's schedule of fees, there are provisions in there for fee waivers to be delegated to the manager planning and environment level. With operational works, there is no clause in the fee schedule for that waiver. With plumbing and drainage, the fees are associated with a 50% waiver. So as the request was for a 100% fee waiver, we've taken this report to Council today. In the background of the report, it talks about the development proposal and the approval for 9 self-contained dwelling units, including a caretaker's residence in Springshaw, which was approved in 2019 and then extended, so the life of the application is 2025. So the resolution before you is to support a 50% refund of those fees in accordance with Council's Register of Commercial and Cost Recovery Fees. However, there is an alternative, should Council want to consider it, which is an alternative to Council's recommendation, a Council officer's recommendation, which would be either a 100% fee waiver or no fee waiver for the application. So I'm happy to take questions if any councillors would like to ask anything.
Questions, councillors? Councillor Moriarty?
No, thank you very much. I just noted that in the past, Council has provided quite a bit of support for the Ivy Anderson Home Committee and the facility. And yeah, just noted that just to raise Council's generosity over the time, that in October 2018, that there was a $75,000 allocation for supporting that facility. So, yeah, I just wanted to just highlight support from Council over time.
Thank you. Other?
A question I have through the chair is, there's this process, but also there's the ready process. Has the ready process been discussed with these applicants, and I guess how would that differ for them?
Through you, Madam Chair. It wasn't included in this report, but a ready application has been lodged by the Ivy Anderson Committee, so that will consider the application fees if there is no resolution from Council today, and then any infrastructure charges associated with the approval. So in the instance that Council supports the officer's recommendation for the 50% waiver, there is an opportunity for Ivy Anderson to get the further 50% of fees waived through the ready application process if they choose. If Council considers one of the alternatives, which is the 100% waiver of fees, the ready application would consider only the infrastructure contributions associated with the approval. And then if Council was to resolve to not support any fee waiver today, the ready could still be considered as part of the application fees. So there's an avenue for them.
Yeah, sure. Councillor Zoffa?
I'd like to suggest option 2, 100% fee waiver. We are very desperate need of aged care in our region. This is an organisation that has raised considerable money through their own fundraising ventures, who have received a lot of support from council, but who actually wrote the application or paid for a consultant to write their application and got this federal funding under their own steam, who continue to raise money. I think this is a model that can be rolled out in many of our small communities, and I'd be ashamed to call myself a councillor if we did not support 100% fee waiver for this organisation. So I would like to suggest option 2, 100% fee waiver.
Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much for your comments, Councillor Cypher, and I would hope that Council does continue to support other similar initiatives that are being developed up presently as well across the region, particularly in areas where council does not provide any support and community are trying to do that themselves. So, yeah, thank you.
Councillor Daniels.
I was going to say I'm very supportive of the assisting this organisation. I'm just trying to get straight in my head. Is it better for, I guess, a precedent around should all of these fee requests be through the ready process rather than a separate request for part of the fees here and then part in the ready application?
Through you, Madam Chair. It's a very good question. Unfortunately, some development applications won't actually trigger the criteria to be eligible for it. So that's why we do have the provision in the fee waiver to allow the manager to have delegation and also GM communities to have some sort of wriggle room with fee waivers. And so while I was talking earlier about, I guess, the discrepancy in the fee schedule, that is being corrected for the proposed fee schedule moving forward for 22-23, but in terms of covering them all in ready, that's not the best solution because not everyone gets to the ready stage. Yeah.
Thanks. So the recommendation is there.
Could I please ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
What is the process to follow? Does that motion have to be put up first, or can I change the resolution?
I was going to ask, do you want to change the resolution?
I would like to change the resolution to 100%.
Yep, sure.
And if that doesn't get up, then it can go back to 50%.
Is that correct, Mr. CEO?
Yeah, you can, Deputy Mayor, you can consider that an amendment being moved by Councillor Cypher to the motion for consideration by councillors.
So is it an amendment to or is it a separate resolution?
It's the motion to amend. The recommendation is a separate motion.
Motion
you
to
consider
amend
that first.
the resolution.
I'll move a motion to.
Sorry, through the chair, the recommendation is up on the screen. So we've then put down the resolution, the amended resolution in there.
Can you turn your microphone on, please, Mary?
So,
through the chair, sorry. So the recommendation that was presented to the council is up on the screen as a recommendation, and the resolution is the amended resolution that you're passing.
Yes.
So you don't have to pass a separate resolution to amend the resolution.
yep, okay. So it is as the resolution, the recommendation is there on the screen. The resolution though, Councillor Cypher, if you're moving it, that Central Highlands Regional Council resolves to approve partial waiver application fees.
Full
waiver of application fees requested by the Ivy Anderson Committee in accordance with Council's Register of Commercial and Cost Recovery Fees 21-22 through 1, 100% refund of $1,575 associated with the assessment fees for the operational works application. OP, is it, or QP? OPW 005 2022, stormwater landscaping, car parking and assessing. And number 2, I'm going to get through this, 100% refund of $4,573 associated with the assessment fees for the plumbing application for 9 independent living units and communal hall, Ivy Anderson Home, 30 Woodbine Street, Swingshaw, PL 023-2022.
Are those figures correct though? Because in the 50%, oh, that, yeah, 50%.
Yeah, so,
yeah, right, as long as those figures are right.
And just before the resolutions pass, just to ask, just to clarify, Councillor Cypher mentioned, Councillor Daniel, mentioned about the ready, but so where does this come from? Is it, it's not under, it's just a refund of money that's already been paid into the infrastructure charges, is that right? Or
Through you, Madam Chair, sorry. So the application fees, so with this refund of 100% that's being proposed, just to confirm those application fees are correct. The brackets showed what the 50% portion was. The fees then get essentially refunded from the application pool associated with the revenue for operational works and plumbing and drainage. So the refund today will come out of each of those pools.
okay, thank you.
okay. So it's been, the resolution has been moved by Councillor Cypher. A seconder, please. Councillor Curtis. As read, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Kirsten. So item 11.1.4, Regional Arts Development Fund, RADF, and again, Acting Manager to introduce, please.
Thank you, Chair. The Regional Arts Development Fund, known as RADF, is a partnership between Central Highlands Regional Council and the Queensland Government via Arts Queensland. The program invests in local art and cultural priorities to provide public value and build local capacity. Madam Chair, I do need to note that within the report, we need to make an amendment to the recommendation to correct a typographical error. You'll note, councillors, that in the table contained within the recommendation, item 1, the Emerald Art Group, has an amount requested of $5,360. The recommendation is to approve $1,740. That amount should be $5,360. And then the second item, Lions Club of Emerald, the amount requested is $16,000. The amount currently in the recommendation is $9,391. It should be $16,000. My apologies, councillor, that we didn't identify this error, but I hope that makes it clear now.
And Lisa, just for noting also that the total for round 3 in the approved is the correct amount?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's correct. The total amount was correct.
Yes, thank you. Susan.
I'll hand over now for to the Arts and Culture Officer Galleries, Ruth Hayden.
Thank you, Acting General Manager Dolan. Through the Chair. On the 8th of April 2022, the Central Highlands Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, the RADF Programs Assessment Panel, met online via Microsoft Teams to assess the third and final round of applications for the 2021-2022 financial year program. 7 applications were considered, 2 group applications and 5 council-initiated projects. The 2 group applications were from 1, the Emerald Lions Club for the construction of a public art piece at the Emerald Lions Park to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the Lions Club. And the second one, Emerald Art Group for local artist Michelle Gray to making and glass fusing workshops during the International Year of Glass in 2022. The 5 council-initiated projects were 1, Flipside Circus, for circus workshops to be held in Emerald and Blackwater, along with training opportunity for local gymnastics coaches. 2, Youth Inc. 1825, for a series of youth art workshops to be hosted in the Emerald Botanic Gardens, facilitated by emerging local artist and Youth Inc. member Jacqueline Vanderpool. 3, Seniors Month in the CHRC libraries. A series of craft workshops will be held in all libraries across the region for our seniors, extended to aged care facilities in the region. 4, Happy Africa Rhythm Workshops for drumming and dance workshops with Gabrielle Otu in Emerald and at the Gemfields Community Resilience Have a Go event. And lastly, the Emerald Art Gallery craft activities for craft activities hosted in the Emerald Art Gallery for the remainder of 2022, including the upcoming Twilight Markets. The Assessments Panel recommendation to Council is that all 7 of these projects be funded. The recommendation total funding amount for round 3 is $49,235.15. This would expend all funds remaining for the 2021-2022 funding year and conclude the program. I would now like to hand over to councillors for any questions.
Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much. I'd love to ask, so the International Year of Glass?
Yes.
I'm just hearing this concept for the first time, so that's this year? Oh, awesome. I just think that's very exciting. I never knew that there would be an International Year of Glass, so awesome. Just wanted to say, there's a great variety of different programs and initiatives there, and as always it's very exciting to see all the different activities that are happening, and there's some great things there, including the Seniors Month activities at the library, but I was also keen to see all of them, but I thought the value add to the Twilight Markets in the gallery was a great initiative as well. So yeah, thank you everyone.
Others, questions, comments? Great initiative, as usual. It's excellent. So if there's no other, Councillor Cyphers moving the officer recommendation that we receive the minutes of the Regional Arts Development Fund assessment meeting on the 8th of April, and second, approve the funding as per the Central Highlands Regional Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee's recommendations for the following Regional Arts Development Fund Round 3 applications for 21-22 financial year, as Ruth did note and read them out there as they are. So it's been moved by Councillor Cypher. If we second it, please. Councillor Moriarty. All those in favour? Yes. Carried. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Very good. So are we going to... Yeah. And are we going to morning tea after that? Yes. Yes. So... Yeah, okay. So now we have something rather special. And I'll ask Mr. Glenn Bell, to come forward, please. So what we're going to do is we'll do this... I wish to do this presentation, and we will follow that by morning tea. So, Mr. Bell, certificate appreciation for your work with flood disaster, Gympie and New South Wales flood disaster management. Your help in Gympie, you were deployed to the Gympie area for March 5 till the 9th, involved in damage assessments and cleaning out of homes. Then also deployed to Newcastle, to New South Wales. I don't know why you had to go to New South Wales. from the 7th of April to the 10th of April. During this time, he was working in the Incident Command Centre as a planning officer, and we believe that was during your annual leave, wasn't it, Scott? True. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
From all councillors. And Gimpy and yourself last once. And
Thank you very much.
Carla's here to take photos. Sorry?
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Truly.
One more.
Great. Carla, can we have all the councillors up here, please, as well? Yes, please. And this was continuation from the staff that were here at the last council meeting, receiving their...
I just happened to be away at that time.
You just happened to be away. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Councillor Cypher. Sorry. Are we centred? We're not really centred, are we? We need to...
A little bit further, please. Yeah. That's good. Oh, sorry, a little bit more. Keep going. All right. Yeah, that's a little bit up there. Yeah. And one more. Great.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
My pleasure.
Excellent. Great stuff.
Your reputation goes to New South Wales.
Oh, it's our reputation too, isn't it? Yep. So we will do now, we'll adjourn the meeting for morning tea. If you would like to come and have morning tea with us, be appreciated. So I will adjourn the meeting at 10:15 and we will return at 10:40? 10:45. Thank you, everybody. live streaming, right? So welcome back, live streamers and everybody else and those in the gallery. Just before we continue with our agenda, I will pass over to the CEO to just update us on point of order. Thanks, Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a point of clarification more so than order. Regarding item 11.1.2 on today's agenda, which was the material change of use Bluff Communications Tower 2 Graham Street, Bluff. We'll note that an additional motion was passed, which was a motion to amend the recommendation. Just wanted to point out that it's no problem that that motion was passed. It's not problematic that it was passed, but just to clarify, and we actually came up with the correct process in the next item, it wasn't necessary for there to be a separate motion to amend the recommendation. In normal circumstances, and as is our current practice, at the point of time when the motion is put, I guess, is first read out, it's just an officer's recommendation. So at that time, if councillors would like to consider altering the wording of the recommendation, they can do that. So that was in the item immediately following. That was what councillors did. There was a recommended change to the wording. So the officer's recommendation wording was altered in accordance with a councillor's request, and then the amended recommendation was considered by council, moved by council, by a councillor, seconded by a councillor and carried. So that's our normal practice, and that is correct practice. We've checked in the break. So as I say, it isn't an issue that it has happened that way. It's the same outcome, will be recorded as such, but I just wanted to get a point of clarification onto the minutes and for councillors and the public's understanding that the normal process is officer's recommendation always is recorded. If councillors want to alter the wording of that, that gets raised during the meeting, and then the councillors consider the altered wording, the altered motion once passed, and then that is what is recorded in the minutes as the resolution.
Thank you. So for those in the live streaming, I hope that sorts out a wee problem. So thank you, Mr. CEO. We'll continue with 11.2 in the corporate services, and I'll ask Acting Manager Maggie to introduce. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. The report before you today is seeking adoption of Council's monthly financial report for the period ended 31 March 2022. I will hand over to Vicky, our Manager of Finance, to present the report and take us through the detail. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you, Maggie. Good morning, councillors. Through the Chair, I present the March Finance Report. The purpose of this report is to provide a monthly update on Council's overall financial position in accordance with the local government regulation. It provides a snapshot of Council's financial position and performance to budget for the period ending 31 March 2022. The key focus of the report is to detail key variances to budget and highlight additional information of interest to Council. The report is divided into 6 key components, being the 3 financial statements on the performance of core Council operations, an analysis of the Capital Works program, business unit results, and a summary of procurement activities, which includes the local buy information. The Statement of Comprehensive Income is provided at Attachment 1. This details income and expenses reported during the period. The March result was an operating deficit of 6.8 million, reported against a budgeted deficit of 2.5 million, an unfavourable variance of 4.3 million. The year-to-date net result, including capital, is a surplus of 6.3 million against a budgeted surplus of 4.6 million. A favourable variance of 1.7 million. Key variances are due to the following. Revenue is lower than budget by 1.3 million, mostly due to the timing of works under the Roads Maintenance Performance Contract Program of $2 million, and this is offset by increases in revenue for sales of proceeds of developed land, fees and charges, interest received, and sales of goods and major services.
The budget phasing for recoverable works was realigned as part of the BR3 process, which was approved by Council on the 13th of April. Operating expenses exceed budget by approximately $3 million and is due to the following. Additional maintenance costs for water utilities of approximately $1.8 million. Timing of materials and services expenditure for external works and roads and streets of approximately $3.3 million. Timing of expenditure for trade services, fleet parts and external plant hire of $1 million. Timing of contract costs for program development and contract delivery of $715,000. Increases in overtime and allowances of $623,000 for RPC works, which is offset by additional revenue. These overspends are offset by underspends in materials and services of $3.5 million due to timings and savings in employee benefits. Materials and services of $3.5 million due to timing and savings in employee benefits of $1.4 million across the organisation. The capital program actual expenditure to 31 March is $32.4 million against a full year budget of $64.7 million, representing a year-to-date spend of approximately 50% and approximately $7.8 million below the budgeted cash flow for this period. This is due to the timing of delivery and progress claims. When commitments are included, the capital expend increases to $55.1 million, representing an 85% spend of total budget. Council's cash position at 31 March 2022 is $88.4 million, with trade and other receivables at $21.8 million. This movement is due to an uptick in rate arrears being paid during the period. Follow-up reminder notices will be sent again in May. Also presented are the operating and income expenses for the 4 business units. The airport unit has recorded an actual operating surplus of just over $1 million against a budgeted surplus of $761,000, an improved position of approximately $289,000. This is due to higher than expected revenue, which was adjusted at BR3. Operating expenses are lower than budget due to timing. The sale yard unit has recorded an actual operating surplus of approximately $17,000 against a budgeted surplus of $20,000, a variance of approximately $3,000, which is due to additional overtime. The waste unit has recorded an actual operating surplus of $916,000 against a budgeted surplus of $701,000, a better than expected result of $215,000 due to additional revenue from refuse disposal and waste levy fees. The water unit has recorded an actual operating surplus of $63,000 against a budgeted surplus of just over $1 million, an unfavourable variance of $968,000. This is largely due to additional expenditure in materials and services due to higher maintenance costs of $1.8 million, and it's offset by decreases in employee benefits and internal plant hire. Local buy statistics for the period ending 31 March recorded a year-to-date local spend of $49.1 million, representing 45% of council's spend. That concludes the presentation of the March Finance Report. Happy to take any questions relating to the information provided. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. Any questions? Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much, Manager. Finances, I hope I got that right, sorry. On page 203, under the heading Corporate Revenue and Expenses, it just suddenly dawned on me that where it's got unfavourable variance in legal cost recovery due to recovery process on hold and reduced insurance claim rebate received, offset by corresponding variance in legal expenditure of $137,315. So that's a negative in brackets of $155,099 So, but it made me realise that I didn't realise that a lot of council's legal costs can be claimed from insurance. Is that correct, or covered by insurance?
Through the chair, there are actually two separate items that are recorded in that variance. So there is insurance claim rebates that we have received, and then there's the legal costs that we haven't recovered. So because we haven't undertaken legal processes relating to rates and water levy arrears, we haven't incurred legal costs that we would then go and recoup. So the 155 will have two components, the legal cost, which will be the majority of it because it has an offsetting expense reduction of 130,000, and a small amount of insurance rebate is included in there as well. So they're two separate items.
Thank you. Because I was just wondering, I guess, is the legal expenditure for council, is that about the amount that the 137,315 is that amount that you would be like every quarter, or for the legal then?
So it relates to the rates and waters arrears. So we would, prior to COVID, we would undertake routine legal recovery of debtors' arrears, but because that has been on hold since COVID, we haven't incurred the expense, and therefore we haven't incurred the recovery as well.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. So that's only for the legal for one part of council, not the whole
Not the
of
whole
council.
legal. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
The other one I was going to ask about, if that's all right, was the variances on page 205 under communities, the last item, favourable variance for flood mitigation materials and services, mainly due to timing for the rollout of evacuation planning and flood warning networks. I just noted that that amount was, I think it is the largest amount, or not quite the largest amount, sorry, the fleet on the next page, but it's $309.224. Obviously that stays in the budget, it's just a delay on spending for that. That's why it's a variance. It still stays there. We're committed to that.
Correct, through the chair. Yes, it's a timing variance, so we haven't incurred it at the expected period that we expect to incur it. And when it's referred to as a timing difference, you're correct, it stays in the budget until we actually incur those costs.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So to manager of infrastructure, Jason, your timing, your 1.64 million for trade services and fleet parts and external plant hire for fleet, is that due to mostly delays of being able to supply?
Through the chair, so that is so that's been identified as an internal process issue. So hired plant and fleet. So examples are an increased fleet that we've had to hire for COVID restrictions in terms of separation of staff, as well as other general plants such as rollers and graders to meet our level of service. Those internal hire, those charges that the fleet department are covering for the hire charges are not being charged internally to the other departments, so the users. So that will be corrected in future presentations.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
And through the chair, so discussions have occurred with each of the managers with those associated charges, and there is a budget allocation in their budget for those to be uncharged.
Thank you. The effects of pandemic is going to stay with us, isn't it? It's ongoing. Any other comments, questions? So the recommendation there is that Central Highlands Regional Council adopt the monthly financial report for the period ended 31st of March 2022. If somebody would like to move that, Councillor Daniels, and seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. Councillor Brimblecombe. All in favour? Thank you, it's carried. Thank you, Vicky. So we move on to infrastructure and utilities. Endorsement of project nominations for Regional Airports Program. Manager of Infrastructure. I'll ask you to introduce, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report today is to present options for the Regional Airport Program. The Manager of Airports presented a list of eligible projects to the Strategic and Briefing Forum on the 12th of April. Following that, the projects were submitted to the SPG, the Strategic Program Governance Group, and the report here follows that meeting. So I'll hand over to the Manager of Project Management Office, Kim Downey, to present the report.
Thanks, Kim.
Good morning, elected members. As just referenced by the General Manager of Infrastructure and Utilities, this report was initially presented to the Strategy and Briefing Forum on the 12th of April, and it did go to the SPGG meeting on the 21st. Just very briefly, the Regional Airports Program is a funding opportunity to improve the safety and accessibility of airports. So it is for the improved safety of aircraft, improved delivery, improve the connectivity, and to assist airports to meet the operational requirements of aeromedical and emergency services. The funding allows for 50% or up to 50% funding of eligible costs. In the report there is the detail of potential direct costs that can be funded. The airport manager proposed 3 projects that were presented to SPGG. Option 1 was the Rolleston Up Runway Works, which is a similar project to that was submitted under a previous funding application for Regional Airstrip Upgrade Program. Option 2 was an expansion on the works for Rolleston Runway, and then option 3 was the Emerald Airport Runway Strip remediation works. These 3 projects were put through the MCA process prior to going to the SPGG, and in the attachment you can see the ranking of those projects with option 1 for Rolleston and the Emerald runway strips coming out as equal. The report further expands on benefits and drawbacks of putting the various options forward, and it also notes that if the Emerald runway strip remediation work was put up for funding, it would require this project to actually move forward 1 year in the airport capital program. We don't have a capital bid for it at the moment because it was considered to be required in the outer years of our 3-year program. So it has been noted that if it is successful, it will actually move forward. Key requirements for this funding: applications close on the 17th of May. And if successful, it's actually a 2-year funding opportunity, so the project does not need to be delivered until the 20th of April 2025. The recommendation, as per the report there, is that the 3rd proposed project, Emerald Runway Strip Remediation Works, be considered for submission for funding.
Thanks, Kim. Councillor Sapphire.
Thank you. I'm pleased you disclosed that this project was in a forward budget. We have a process that we now go through, and I'm dreadful with acronyms, but the SSPC, whatever you like to call it, seems to be able to push projects around hilly-pilly, because yesterday a project that was in the current budget we're doing got pushed out $2 million, which was a pipeline in Capella that is critical to the survival of that community when that dam goes dry. So we can sit here and push out those sort of things which are critical to the community, yet we can bring forward a project that is not actually a risk factor. We're getting a consultant in to write the application, and was not even submitted as a project by the GM to go into next year's budget. So I ask you, when I'm always told that we have to follow the new processes we're using, how come it is only to be followed when it suits certain people and does not have to be followed when it's for the critical survival of communities? I'm absolutely disgusted and horrified that this project, and I've mentioned this before so don't be surprised that I'm angry today, because I am. So I will be voting against this. If you want to stick to processes and kick out projects that are critical to survival and then put in this project that can be done, instead of just grabbing at every funding round that comes up, I'm ashamed to sit on this council.
Councillor Daniels.
Thank you. Through the chair to Kim. Sorry, I missed what forward budget year was the project due to be in, and I guess what is the justification of bringing it forward other than just an opportunity to put in funding now?
Through the chair, I'm going to pass that to the Manager of Airports, who's here today as our acting GM.
Thanks, Solomon.
Thank you. Through the chair, the project is currently not needed, as we've declared. The project will only be needed around 2025, and when this funding, this grant fund round came out, we're trying to line up the grant horizon, I guess, with the grant, with when we actually might need the projects to be done. So that's the answer to the first question. Sorry, Councillor, I don't remember the second bit.
Well, it does really. The question was, when was it originally budgeted for, and what's the justification for bringing it forward?
But, sorry, yes.
So it's obviously lining up.
It's lining up.
When you would have required it.
Yes.
And I guess the second part to that question is what's the risk if we don't do this project in 2025?
Thank you. So again, through the chair, the reason why we're bringing it forward, or why we're putting it on this, is because of the significant saving that council will have. The council we will have to do this project at some point anyway, because it's compliance based. So from that point of view, the grant opportunity presents a significant saving to council, and in light of that saving, we thought we would bring it to council so that saving might, should we be successful, be realised. If we don't we don't have to do that project, or our numbers show that we don't have to do that project in the next financial year, that is financial year end 2023. We also don't have to do this project in financial year end 2024. But by financial year in 2025, if we straight line the measurements and how the strip is deteriorating, then we'll have to do this project around in the 3-year mark.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, a follow-up question. Is there a risk on estimating the costs now and not, I guess, contracting until like 24, that the costs will differ and that we will end up with a lower amount available for the project?
Through the chair, that is an excellent question. It's one of the risks that the Strategy and Briefing Forum item noted, that we could theoretically save council, and I'll work rough with the numbers, let's say $1.5 million should the grant authority come and put in 50-50. So we might save $1.5 million by putting it in. However, councillor is 100% correct. By trying to estimate diesel and earth moving and where wages will have to go and all of those sorts of things in 2 or 3 years, of course, the longer you're trying to look out, the more it is going to become fuzzy, and we will be wrong. We will probably be wrong, let's be honest, we will be too low, and it will probably, the actual cost might be higher. The thing that as officers we're trying to present to council is the likely inflationary escalation going to be more than 50% of the project, which we're likely to save by accessing the grant? And who knows what happens, but we don't think that we can be wrong by 50%. And therefore, when all things are considered in the end, we would still, by accessing the opportunity, be able to deliver a saving to council. But it remains an excellent question and is a risk as the grant programs come out and horizons lengthen. We do run that risk.
Can I add to the response? Yes. Chair, thank you. So in answer to the original question, and also addressing Councillor Cypher's point, and the original question I think was which year was it in the forward capital program? So I draw council's attention to a paragraph on page 216 of the papers that begins, the Emerald Airport runway strip remediation works project is proposed to be included in the forward capital program. So the project is not in the current forward capital program. Councillor Cypher is quite right. It was the officer's intention to include it and is proposing to include it in the future, in the forward capital program, but is not yet in there. The reason the officer is recommending that is because it's a compliance-based project. It's necessary works to do at some stage in the future. And it's a breakdown of process that they had not yet been included in the forward capital program. So there's no reason other than right now including it, other than the opportunity that the grant program brings, and it's quite within council's rights to not approve us applying for this grant if that's what you would prefer. And if that's what happens, then the officer will need to put up the project for consideration via the SPGG on the forward capital program as is correct process.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that clarification, Madam CEO, because what I was thinking, I wasn't really clear. My question was, I know that you guys, because of the compliance, have to have your asset management planning done, which is why you've come up with this project, and I took it that it would be the 24-25 financial year. Which means that the funding allocations for this year and next year, it's not there for the council's infrastructure asset management planning. It's been sitting over for the airports. So that's what you've clarified, Madam CEO, to bring it into the overall council asset register planning, is that correct? Okay. But my question was, the other thing that I thought was made clear as well was that because the Emerald Airport is a commercial operation, that it does still have its own funding and does have some constrained funding that it can also use. So I took it that there's also that opportunity that the airport itself, in its own funding, can fund this, not necessarily out of council's central budget.
Through the chair, another excellent point. None of the airport projects we are proposing to use from the bigger bucket. The councillor is correct in that the airport surpluses go into a reserve, and that's what we operate the airport from, and with the addition, of course, of grants and fees and charges, that's what we pay it from. So yes, councillor is correct. The idea is not that this or any of the other airport projects are funded from the general fund per se.
Thank you. No, you didn't want it. Okay. No further? So the officer recommendation there is that the Central Highlands Regional Council approved the following project for submission under Regional Airports Program Round 3, and that is the Emerald Airport runway strip. A total value, project value of $3.35 million. Furthermore, if the application is successful, Central Highlands Regional Council will commit to the inclusion of required funds in the 22-23 and 23-24 budgets as council contribution to the project. Councillor Grimble-Cone moves. A seconder, please. Councillor Moriarty. So, all in favour? And against? So that's 2 against. It's carried. The motion's carried. Thank you.
So just to confirm your vote there, Mayor,
sorry.
because of the numbers? Yep.
Yep, sorry. I was... Record. Councillor Cypher? Yes. Councillor Curtis? Sorry? Yes, please. Thanks, Kim. So the next item is 11.5, Central Highlands Development Corporation. No, we've done that one. Sorry, we did that one first. We go on to information reports, communities 13.1.1, sport and recreation annual update. So we have the acting GM and Emma to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to update Council on the activities of the Sport and Active Recreation Advisory Group and the Sport and Recreation team over the past 18 months during the rollout of the reviewed game plan policy. The presentation was delivered to the Sport and Active Recreation Advisory Group, and it was their recommendation that it be brought forward to Council to update you all on the extent of the work that we've been carrying out. One of the most important aspects of the work that we've been conducting has been the adoption of the Open Space and Recreation Plan. This document will guide the decisions of Council for the next decade on all sorts of matters that relate to how we manage our open spaces and sporting spaces. Looking at the sporting spaces in the region and what the sport team has jurisdiction over, we have 43 sports fields, 78 different courts, 7 aquatic facilities, 5 showgrounds, 5 race courses, 6 golf courses, 3 bowls clubs, all of them privately owned, 4 shooting complexes, the driver training and motorsport complexes, and the Sunrise Rotary BMX Park. It's a substantial portfolio. Within the open space plan that identified all of those areas, we also looked at the population of each of the towns within the region, and all of this information goes to support some of the recommendations or decisions that we put to Council as we move forward. We've done significant consultation over the past 18 months, and there are some key results that have come from those. Obviously, there was some history with the initial rollout of the game plan policy. We looked at concerns by community over the maintenance of existing facilities, access to water and shade, the need for indoor facilities, particularly in this hot region, improving the quality of our parks, looking at walking and cycle paths, outdoor recreation focus, such as Bedford Weir and Fairbairn Dam, looking at some flexible operating hours in some of our facilities, a request for indoor equestrian facilities across the region, and we use, again, all of that information that we've been gathering in consultations to inform the decisions or recommendations that we make. We discovered some data on what the most popular recreations within Central Highlands are at this time anyway, and they do follow the major trends or the macro trends within sport of individual participation rather than team participation. So any walking activity, gym activity, running, jogging, swimming, bushwalking, yoga, cycling, fitness classes, and then golf and tennis are the only two traditional sports that made it to the top 10. At this time, obviously, sport has a fashion and those things do tend to change over time. One of the most concerning aspects that the team is looking at is what's happening to modern volunteering at this time. We look not only at the macro trends, but also how that's affecting us in the Central Highlands. And you'll see here that modern volunteering has decreased very rapidly, particularly during COVID. The major trend that's been identified across all community organisations post-COVID is a failure of volunteers over 65 returning to volunteering. And they are one of the most important groups that supports communities across Central Highlands. In regards to tenure, when we started, we had only about 7, I think, of the original game plan agreements signed. We've now had more than 85% of all of the tenure documents signed and executed. There's very few left now, and we're in discussions with all of those groups to find solutions that work for them. In terms of the consultations that we've done over the last 18 months in relation to game plan, I guess we've had 9 meetings. Since the adoption of game plan, we've had 207 meetings with communities and groups over 18 months, 4 community consultations in relation to the open space plan, and 7 annual user groups. The councillors that sit on the Sport and Active Advisory Group, Active Recreation Advisory Group, have attended almost all of those meetings with us. So it's been a substantial workload for all of those councillors to manage on top of their other duties, and their support was very important in the process. We have also looked at reviewing grants and fee waivers and starting to capture that information so that we have a deeper understanding of the sporting groups within the region and how council supports them in different ways. We're able for the first time to start quantifying those things as well and including those details in our recommendations. Apart from those things, we've also run various programs over the last 12 months. In terms of club support, we have provided some COVID open and recovery instructions for clubs and support. We have Club Coach, which is the online resources that are available to all of the clubs in the region, whether they're on tenure or not. Newsletters and funding updates, and a sports forum, which is coming up in, Emma?
The 2022 Sports Forum will be available in May this year.
Thank you. Healthy Active Highlanders is just beginning. That's a program to encourage people within the community to attend classes, to keep them healthy and active. We have Get Out, Get Active program as well, which this year again, because of COVID, was free access to our aquatic centres across the region. Hopefully next year we'll be able to get back to a more normal version of that program. We have the 10,000 Steps a Day staff initiative, and then considerable cash and in-kind support and policies that we're reviewing at the moment, and we'll be partnering with the rest of communities to access Smarty grants to make the access and application for money more fair and open. We have also been working on collaboration across the region with a focus on community partnerships to escalate funding or capital projects. So we've identified just some of the clubs that we're working with at the moment with an attempt to support their private applications for funding where something might not be prioritised for council. And we've done that in different ways by sometimes providing plans for clubs to apply directly, for assistance with their funding application, or even assistance in contacting the state or federal agencies that might be able to provide support to them. We're improving management of our aquatic centres, and we've brought in some changes in software to support that as well. We've developed and maintained a club contact database where we're able to track volunteers as they move in and out of organisations, and we're beginning work on a sports awards ceremony that we hope will take place later in the year. In terms of our aquatic centres, we've implemented the integrated monitoring system, which is a software system to help streamline the way that they report to us. We have a workplace health and safety and supervision focus at the moment. We have updated lease arrangements in Emerald. We have a new manager in Sapphire that's been very successful, renewed a contract for managers in Capella. We're just looking at how we might staff Rollston as we move forward, and then we have arrangements in Springshaw to keep at least one pool open during the refurbishment of that aquatic centre. All of those aquatic centres are providing programs that support the community in different ways. In terms of new caretakers in our spaces, we've appointed caretakers to Emerald, Bridgeman Park, Springshaw Showgrounds, Roy Day Park, Bedford Weir, and there's an expression of interest out now for the Springshaw racetrack, ensuring that all of those important large spaces are better managed and maintained. We've also undergone a branding signage rollout that I hope everybody's noticing as they go across the region. That will be continuing across the showgrounds, particularly in the coming 12 months. I just would like to give you a quick update as well of what we've been doing in our CapEx program. I know that you've all seen many of these projects, so I'll try not to spend too much time, but as we go around the region, town by town, specific to sport and recreation, in 2021, we started the electrical upgrades in all of the showgrounds, and those continue over the next year or two. In this year, we'll be working on the pavilion roof in the Springshaw Showground, more work on the electrical upgrades, and of course we painted the arch of the showgrounds at Beasley Park in time for the Nationals, which took place just last weekend. We've also upgraded the Springshaw Racecourse transformers, and we are working right now on the final construction plans for the Springshaw Aquatic Centre, which will be replacing the 25-metre pool with a brand new pool, installing a 17-metre program pool and an aquatic splash pad for children. In Rollston, we have replaced the sports ground playground equipment, Shalesade over the top, which was damaged in a storm. At the community oval, we've installed water meters to help address some of the issues there that relate to the tenure agreement. And in the sports ground, we've done some electrical upgrades. This year, we have replaced a pool, a chemical storage shed in Rollston Pool, beg your pardon, which revealed some more electrical issues that we've had to address. And in the kiosk, we've done some electrical upgrades as well. Also this year, we're upgrading the tennis court, excuse me, and removing a shed that has some asbestos in it. We've been working with the club again to find out what their preferences are about what they'd like us to do under the rest of that project. Beasley Park is underway at the moment, the Beasley Park upgrade. The paths have been completed there. In Beasley Park, we're replacing footpaths, installing another skate park. There's a multi-court within the park, and in partnership with the local coffee cart group, who secured nearly $200,000 or just over $200,000 in funding themselves, they'll be providing the money for the playground and for some other play equipment within the park. In the gem fields, obviously the Sapphire Pool car park happened last year. We also repaired the steps and filtration there. Royday Park amenities building refurbishment took place this year as well. And the construction of the new multi-use building in Royday Park has already commenced, and it will be completed next year when the internal fittings are done in July. The Anarchy tennis court was also completed already this year. So that tennis court was just dirt about 12 months ago, and it's one of the only spaces in that community for children to go and play, and it's very popular already. We've also completed the Sapphire skate park, which is co-located with the Sapphire Aquatic Centre and has been open for a couple of weeks now. There is still some minor works to be done there. In Bohinia, we conducted an electrical safety audit on the sports complex there, and we added some shade structures to the playground. Next year, we have scheduled some shade over the new play structure at the hall. In Emerald, we've been doing some design work on the Macindoe announcers box. Some of these projects may not be constructed next year, but we are getting the planning underway so that we have some shovel-ready projects moving forward. We're also doing some electrical upgrades still in Macindoe Park. We've already completed the extension design for the Emerald Skate Park, and again, while not scheduled for construction next year, these plans will be available if we need them. We refurbished the floors in the Emerald Indoor Complex, still known as the PCYC. We've done some electrical upgrades in the Showgrounds, caretakers shed within Emerald Showgrounds, and a new boxing shed, which again was not paid for by council, was paid for by the community organisation, but we found some space for them in the Showgrounds. We replaced the shade sails within the Emerald Aquatic Centre, which had been damaged over time, and we've just, in time for the rodeo, completed a major upgrade of the rodeo grounds, including the fencing that you can see there, the concrete fencing, and a full electrical upgrade and lighting upgrade as well. We have scheduled a upgrade of the BMX track in Emerald for next year, and we've secured funding for that. In Emerald, we've also done some work on the lighting, solar lighting at touch football, lighting designs for rugby union in Moreton Park, and some soccer light upgrades there as well. In Capella, we're working on the design and feasibility for the Bridgeman Park Clubhouse, building and amenities. We've replaced the Capella Aquatic Centre, or refreshed the Capella Aquatic Centre amenities. The skate park has a full new shade over it. Bridgeman Park also has had a lighting and electrical upgrade, which is still underway. In Blackwater, the Showgrounds have been a substantial project over the last 12 months with the failure of some power poles there. That work is scheduled for completion by the end of June this year. And in Hunter Street, we provided some cricket nets and pitch upgrades as well. Also this year, we've done major work within the Blackwater Aquatic Centre to address some of the concerns there around safety and trip hazards. The Blackwater Showgrounds Make Safe continues, and the skate park, of course, was completed and has proved really popular. In Dingo, we have new amenities blocks at the Dingo Race Club, the Dingo Skate Park, and the Golf Club Playground and Shade. And then regionally, the Showground master plans will just begin coming to fruition now. So there'll be both a physical master plan of the space, but then also working with each of the groups within them to come up with a plan for the future. And we have a Make Safe timber pole program throughout the region where we're identifying other timber poles that might be under threat from insects or for other reasons and replacing those if necessary. We have a whole range of electrical Make Safes from inspections that have taken place already. And in the future, as I mentioned, we're really looking to have some shovel-ready designs for different things, particularly for Capella. Painting and sandblasting of the Capella Arena fence is one of the items that we're hoping to achieve next year. Stage 1 of the Capella Aquatic Centre, which is the removal of a small pool there that has some safety issues. Water tanks for sports grounds, which is something that came from consultations that particularly for large equestrian events that put pressure on town water supplies, it's a good solution. An upgrade of Macindoe Park, and there we're working in conjunction with Rugby Union particularly to see if we can find some other spaces for them. And then the Make Safe timber power poles continue. So I know that I have rushed through that. I hope that that it's provided a bit of an update on everything that we've been doing together as a team, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Lisa. Chair of the advisory group, would you, Councillor Carpenter, have you got anything to add?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just want to commend the report, really. I think it's, when I saw it the first time, I was overly impressed with it. So it just covers off on a lot of things that, everything that's been done, which is a mountain of work that they've completed in that area. So I just want to commend the report.
Thanks, Councillor Carpenter. Lisa, before I go to Janice, I note that Blackwater is having a rodeo in the next weekend, or this coming weekend. So the electrical upgrades at the Blackwater Showgrounds is in part fixed, or is enough for a event to be run? Thanks, Emma.
Thanks, Councillor Rolfe. The upgrades are partly way through and they won't be finished in time for the rodeo. However, we have some temporary measures in place that we've been working with the club and the projects team to make sure that there's adequate lighting and electricity supply for that event.
Excellent, excellent. And the only other comment I'd make is about and I spoke to Lisa about this earlier, about the Roy Day Park new building, and just a concern I have with in the design or in the plan, the cold room is on the opposite side of the building to the bar, and I just felt that we didn't want to go down the same track as we had with the Springshaw Multi-Function Centre, which is not functional as such. So, yeah, your comment on that, please.
Thank you, through the chair. I did pass that information on to our project management team. We'll make sure that we have another round of consultation with the users at Roy Day Park to make sure that the internal layout is just as they'd like it to be.
Yeah, sure. No, that's really good. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much. I would just like to say, first off, I have seen the branding around the region, and it's lovely actually, because you can read. It's a good size. You can read it. I don't have to have my glasses on even, so it does stand out. So congratulations. It is really good. The colours, everything worked for me. And also, I would just like to obviously commend the report and all the great work that the committee and everyone has been doing. And it was just fantastic to have it presented on a place-based report, and then those regional elements as well. So I think people have heard me say we hear about all individual little projects here, there and everywhere, but it's nice to have them put under each of the communities so we can see at a glance, you know, what's been done in each of the communities. The other thing, your statistics are great, thank you for that, because you know, like the 63% of people enjoying walking, looking at a couple of little projects, but the active transport, it just makes it really important for me now. I've got a really good statistic really on, and as you say, it relates to other trends, not just in our region, because, you know, that active transport networks are so critical for our communities. And I know that, well, I think everyone knows that we've been working on that too at Blackwater as well as other communities. And just wanted to say that the Springshaw Beasley Park coffee cart, Rollston, sorry, Springshaw, Rollston. It's been a great success story, and I'm glad to hear more about the great things that are happening there, and all sorts of great things happening at Beasley Park as well. And the skate parks, thank you, that's wonderful. Amongst all the great stuff that's there. But I did have one question, believe it or not, after that, all of that. I noted that you have on page 287 under regional, the 2023 subject to budget. I did have seen it before, and I was just wondering, I did want to ask previously as well, the grandstand renewal, is that for just one spot, or that you're actually looking at that across the region? Is that what you're looking at? Is that like a bit of a feasibility, or, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, through you, Madam Chair. So, Councillor, there was actually, as part of the open space plan, there's a full active transport plan for the whole region within the open space plan. We've been working with infrastructure on that, and it has been passed on to them so that they're aware of a lot of that information and linkages as well. On the grandstand renewal, that initial project will just be looking at all of the grandstands across the region, identifying what needs to be repaired, probably doing urgent work immediately, and then trying to come up with a plan for grandstands moving forward. You know, and part of that may be some mobile grandstands, or it may be new ones. It really just depends on how they're used and how we can best use the funds.
Councillor Daniels?
Thank you, through the Chair. I will certainly support Councillor Moriarty's and Councillor Carpenter's congratulations on a great report and being place-based as well. It makes it very easy to digest. And one question I have, just one other comment, and it's wonderful to see, I certainly know from the CRGs I'm involved with that many of these projects are ones that have been raised and advocated for and supported with the planning to actually see them being delivered. So it's great to see that collaboration with community. And just one question I have is the page 23 of 320, oh, they're all 23s. I don't know what that number is, but the CHRC grant recipients and fee waivers recorded, that list there. Does that include the in-kind that council contributes to many sporting events, whether it's the truck with the water truck or the waste like support or etc.?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, Councillor, in another slide that I removed just for time's sake, we do now capture all of the in-kind contributions that are made by council for clubs, and they're reported to councillors every quarter. And then we also capture fee waivers and other grants or donations that we make to them. So I think for the first time in some time at least, we're able to identify per club all of the different channels that they might access within council for support, and then that will inform the recommendations that come forward when they ask for further sponsorship from council as well. And that information is also provided to the general managers if they're considering a sponsorship application within their delegation.
Thank you. Lisa, what's your thoughts about the 15% of tenures that are not signed? Is that are you going to work extremely hard on to get 100%, or how does, in history, how has that happened?
Councillor, thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. For those that are outstanding, there are some that I'm confident we'll be able to negotiate an outcome for in the next month or two, but there are some that you'll see coming back to council probably in the next few months for a briefing and a further decision, and there may come a time where council needs to consider what happens if we're not able to come to any sort of agreement with a resident club around their tenure conditions.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, Councillor.
Sorry, there was just one other I was going to mention. With Emerald, with the announcers box at Mackendale Park. I remember climbing up there a few times, not that I ever did the announcing, but when my boys were playing football. But I just noticed on the design that obviously that area floods. So I just wanted to, I'm sure people have already mentioned that, but just to have that adaptability in design somehow to cater for that.
Thanks. Through the chair, Councillor Moriarty, the design currently has that the underneath of that, it's purely for storage, so there won't be any electrical equipment stored underneath, and then the announcer's box at the top with internal stairs, so you don't have to worry about being outside climbing up.
We'll give you a rope, Councillor Moriarty. On behalf of the Mayor also, thanks to all of the members of the advisory committee. It's come a long way, and it's done an excellent job. So thank you very much.
Thank you through you again, Chair. I'd just like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the hard work of the Sport and Recreation team and the councillors on the advisory group. I think together we've been able to move the game plan on and move council on for that and develop really great relationships. So thank you for your attention today.
That's excellent. So the councillor, the recommendation there is that the council notes the report on work conducted by the Sport and Active Recreation Advisory Group and Sport and Recreation team over the past 18 months during the rollout of the reviewed game plan policy. Moved by Councillor Carpenter, seconded by Councillor Moriarty. All in favour? Against? Yes? For. Carried. Thank you. Carried. Thank you, team. So we go on to the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee planning meeting minutes from the 8th of April, and Acting Manager, will you introduce, please?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. The Central Highlands Art and Cultural Advisory Group, known as CHRC, is a council committee established to encourage the participation and optimum service delivery for council's communities regarding the areas of arts, cultural and heritage programs, projects and activities. I'll now pass the reporting to the Arts and Culture Officer, Galleries, Ruth Hayden.
Thank you, Acting General Manager Dolan. Through the Chair. This report presents minutes of CHRC meeting on the 8th of April 2022, held online via Microsoft Teams. Key items for noting are: Medal in March activities have been completed for 2022, with 7 quirky wire workshops hosted by Raylene Bock in Blackwater, Emerald and Capella. Participants numbered a total of 57 for the 7 workshops, where attendees made metal wire wreaths, garden ornaments and wall art. We look forward to hosting the biennial Medal in March again in 2024. Camerata Queensland's Chamber Orchestra will hold their public performance on the 12th of May 2022 at the Emerald Botanic Gardens. They have been working with 2 local primary schools to perform collaboratively with the orchestra. The performance will also showcase the world premiere of newly composed piece inspired by Emerald by composer in residence Alexander Volz. Council is providing support to the performance so that the community can attend free of charge. Copyright training delivered for the Flying Arts Alliance will now be offered in May 2022 for our region's artists and creatives after previous postponements. An additional session on financial management will now also be offered the following day. I will now hand over to the councillors for any questions.
Councillor Seifert, you have anything to add? Any other comments? Councillor Moriarty.
Yep, thank you very much, and congratulations to everyone involved. It's awesome. I was just, only because I've had a few people mention it, even though I know it's on flyers and information out there, but I just thought I might bring it up now. The capital on page 6 of the 9, which would be page 296 of the overall, was the capital project for the Emerald Arts Precinct facelift. So I noticed there that it's closed as of the 30th of March. I had to have a little sticky beak there this morning, but I was just wondering when that's due to be finished behind there. Please.
Can I pass to Suzanne, please?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Chair, in regards to the facelift project for the Arts Precinct, you're referring to the community consultation that was just closed? Is that right?
Just timelines, I guess, for the overall project?
Yeah.
Behind the library?
Sure,
yeah.
So that project we're calling the Arts Precinct Facelift. And so we have just closed the engagement in regards to the plan that we had for that space. And we didn't actually receive any feedback from community through the Have Your Say in regards to that project. So we've now closed off that submission, and the project has been submitted for consideration by councillors in next year's budget for the capital money to implement the plan that's been created.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. I do know that many years ago, the Emerald CRG was one of their first projects, so I know it's a great space behind there, and all the talk is, the second fig tree or the fig tree's being trimmed back, so and people asking if it was being removed, so I said, I think it's just being trimmed, so I'm not sure.
Through the Chair, I can respond to that. The second fig tree, unfortunately, is at the end of its life, and that in some time coming up soon, and perhaps General Manager Donlan might know the dates, it's in process, so sometime in the near future, unfortunately, the second fig tree will need to be removed, so it will no longer be in that location, unfortunately.
That's fine. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing more of the plans. Sorry, I haven't been looking as much as I should have been. So thank you for that. And I was just wondering, does this group get involved in the Arts for August? Are we doing that this year?
Yep. So we, through the Chair, we still have the annual Arts around August, we call it now, because it's not just for the month of August. There's often programs prior to August and after August, so it's kind of I guess the program's been extended to be more inclusive of the kind of 3 months program. So the plans for that will be coming out closer to August. Okay. But if you have any feedback or suggestions, we'd be happy to hear those.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Well done.
So no other comments, questions? Okay, thanks, Suzanne. So Central Highlands Regional Council received the minutes of the Central Highlands Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee planning meeting held online on the 8th of April 22. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Seifert, second Councillor Curtis. All in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you, ladies. And we move on to customer and commercial service. The Q3 report update, and Acting General Manager Solomon, thank you.
Good morning, councillors, staff and the public. This morning we present you with the Customer Service Quarter 3 report. The reports provide council with an update on customer service performance for the third quarter of this financial year. Council will see that included in the report are performance statistics along with business improvement and project initiatives for the reporting period. I ask that the Manager Customer Service present the report to council.
Thank you, General Manager Coppers. Through the Madam Chair, it's my pleasure to present to you today the Quarter 3 performance report for customer service, and also to introduce our Customer Experience Officer, Rach, who you will hear a little bit more from later on in the presentation. Just wait for the slides. Sorry. Slides are up. One of them saying a bit issue. Sorry. Next one. Oh, sorry. Perfect. So overall performance with regard to customer requests, we had a total of 4,750, which is 5% down from the last quarter, and that's probably just attributed to, it was quite a busy quarter last year, towards the end of last year, if you recall, with lots of rates and water-related activities occurring. By department, I just wanted to draw your attention to a minor error in the utilities and infrastructure statistics. You'll see that 89% and 21% do not equal 100, so my apologies there. The correct statistics should be 79% completed and 21% complete were overdue. So our top 5 performers by volume were obviously rates and valuation, followed closely by water, roads, development and planning being the star performers once again with 97% completed within target, having received just over 200 CRMs for the quarter, which is quite impressive. This is a little slide about our additional contact points, and I'll just draw your attention to a few areas on the slide. So with regard to our online services portal, you can see we received 21 for the quarter. That's a significant increase from quarter 2 where we had 8, so we're up to 21. It's still not a great deal, but there is some traction with our online services portal. We also had a 30% increase in our SnapSend Solve users between quarter 2 and quarter 3, with our most popular requests water leaks, damaged road and overgrown vegetation. With the recent weather over the Christmas New Year period, that would be no surprise. Interestingly, I wanted to raise today, and it's only come out last week, that Technology One has confirmed that they have built a connector between SnapSend Solve and Technology One. So we've been waiting to leverage that third-party provider and their app that they have. It certainly makes sense for customers to have one app on their phone and be able to move through different shires and report issues. So that connector means that people can lodge a request directly into our request management system, which removes a lot of double handling by our customer service team. They get all the updates and everything through their SnapSend Solve app. So that's really exciting. So early indications is that we will move to that 2022A release towards the end of the year. And Rach and myself and the corporate applications team are really excited to explore that functionality. So.
And will you be, how will you advise the community that that's actually going to happen back?
Thanks, Madam Chair. We'll have to go through some consultation with internal stakeholders, because some of the reasons we haven't broadcast more widely across the community the SnapSend Solve as an option for customers is there are some resource constraints in some areas, and flooding the system with issues reported through that app might have a negative impact on our level of ability to be able to service those in the timeframes. So I'll be closely working with teams like General Manager Houlihan, rates, water, roads, just to make sure that we're equipped to handle, as we start to promote the use of SnapSend Solve, that we can actually make good on our commitment and our service. Our contact centre. So Rach and I, as part of some training that we've recently done, did some exploring into our data that we have. the outcome of that training was we had to do some presentations and look at some data. And so interestingly, around our contact centre, we identified that 41% of all CRMs that we've received for the quarter have been received by phone. So by looking into our data, we're finding that by and large the people's preference, or our community's preference in terms of getting in contact with us and reporting an issue or with a question is by phone, followed closely by email, and then face-to-face and other forms of physical mail. But we thought that was quite interesting. Also, we're very proud that 94% of our inquiries were resolved at first point of contact for the quarter, specifically relating to rates and water. And as I said, it's been quite a busy quarter, and it'll probably stay that way with reminders now coming out on a regular basis. Okay, so I'm just going to hand over to Rachel. Rachel is going to give the Chambers a little bit more information about the training that we recently provided. Rach started with us in January and has hit the ground running with a number of initiatives. So she's also got a slide on some of the great changes she's been making to the website. But I'll hand over now to Rach to run us through the training and what we've learnt.
Thank you, Beck. Through the chair, over a course of 6 weeks, Beck and I worked through a certified customer experience strategy and design course administered online through the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology University. Throughout the course, Beck and I completed 5 key milestones that would eventually lead to form the foundations of one final presentation assessment. These milestones consisted of consumer insights, where we had to interview a CHRC resident on their experiences with council, and from their answers and overall experience, we each created 3 consumer insights using a situation, issue and solution structure, allowing us to capture the whole picture. Module 2 consisted of a customer persona. So based on our CHRC resident interview, statistics obtained through the Australian Bureau of Statistics and our internal CHRC data. Ultimately, we would be looking to build more of these personas and add to our portfolio, aiming for up to 5 to 6 eventually, with each different persona ensuring that all of our customers are captured into at least one of the personas to correctly identify a group of customers. Module 2 also included an experience journey map. So based on the customer experience obtained from the interview, we mapped out their journey with us, noting each touch point with council and what their pains or gains may have potentially been, and with each experience that they've had with council. Module 3 consisted of goals. So we used something called a STEEP framework, where we were able to analyse socio-cultural, technological, economic, environmental and political trends, and form 3 realistic value-add goals for CHRC by the way of improving our customers' experience with us. Module 4 included a vision statement, which is a small paragraph articulating our overarching goal based on who our customers are using our persona that we created, what they want using the experience map we constructed, and the service that we want to provide them, consisting of the 3 goals that we built. Module 4 also consisted of a prototype, which is an achievable concept either through technology or physical change that we can add into our current processes that we don't provide or have access to, which will enhance our customers' overall experience with us and take away at least one of their pains that they potentially have when dealing with CHRC. Module 4, we also created an aspirational journey map consistent with our prototype, so similar to the current realistic customer journey. However, this map would imagine how users' experience might change after implementing said prototype or physical change. And our final module was measuring these changes and whether or not they were successful. This module looked at different ways that we can measure how our changes are affecting the experience our customers are having with us. We do already use some of these measurement guides more broadly. However, this module forced us to look at applying them to more specific changes in order to gauge whether or not we were actually achieving the desired outcome from our implementations, from our strategy. And in addition to this course, another main focus of mine and Beck's has been improving our website. So using data collected through heat mapping and Google Analytics, as well as insights gathered through conversations with other councils who have similar demographics to ours, we reviewed 3 pages that are of key points of truth to our customer service team and rate quite highly within our community, one of which was our most popular page, the Contact Us page. The two other pages that we reviewed were very customer service centric and therefore allowed us to see and hear the result of the changes directly through the team. These pages were the animal registrations and our online portal entry page. Using wireframes and the data collected, these pages were redeveloped to create a more user-friendly and seamless paths for our customers, and so far they have been rating well. As Beck mentioned, we've had an increase in online user portal service, and we've also had an increase in SnapSenSolve, which for the first time was mentioned on our Contact Us page. So I'll now pass back to Beck to address our final agenda point.
Thanks, Rach. As you can appreciate, Rachel and I are very keen to apply some of the skills and learnings that we've picked up through that course in some deliverables through the new corporate plan that talk about understanding and improving our customers' experience. So we've picked up some really helpful skills and insights about how that journey looks, and we look forward to coming back to you at a point in time with our findings and suggestions for improvement and those sorts of things. Finally, the call centre has finally migrated across to Microsoft Teams, which might not seem like much to most people, but for us, the rest of the organisation has been on Microsoft Teams and benefiting from that platform for quite some time. Because we operate a call centre, we had to wait a little bit, and I won't begin to articulate the technical stuff, but stuff had to go on behind the scenes to get the two to talk together. It really has been a game changer for customer service. One, it's been great being on the same platform as the rest of the organisation and not working on two separate systems to contact people, but it really has improved the connection between the customer service team, which you all know and appreciate are spread right across the region. So them being able to chat with one another, the camaraderie, the teamwork, the fun is sort of creeping its way back into customer service, which is fantastic. So there are, operational advantages and efficiencies for us that we're learning or we're gaining through being moved across to Teams. It's been quite seamless, and I have to acknowledge the efforts of the ICT team and their support in getting us online. It was a little bumpy as we went live, but they were right there to support and help us get us over the line, and it's absolutely been fantastic ever since. So that's been really pleasing and great to watch from the outside, watching all the customer service team interact with one another through jokes and the transition of information really, really quickly to be able to respond to calls and those sorts of things. That's the end of our presentation, so I'll now hand over to councillors if there's any questions or comments.
So who have we got? Councillor Moriarty.
Councillor Prem-Cameron's. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. Thank you very much for your report. It was great to hear that good news about SnapSenSolve, having that, because it's a great, application, and to know that it's now linked and a good story for our council one. So that's really good. Very interesting statistics about the phone calls. 41% of people, and I can tell you, I'm actually one of those people who just like to talk to someone at the other end. So it probably does say something about our clients or our customers and ratepayers who use our organisation and customer service centre. I just have to say it, when I did my Masters of Business Administration, my specialty area was marketing. And it was just an absolute delight to sit here and listen to you guys go through all of those modules. It just took me right back there to best practice and having worked with businesses in the region, specifically with their marketing. So it's so great to see that council's actually doing that as well. And great work also with the website changes as well. It's all about continuous improvement. We don't always get it right all of the time, but it's about what we do about that. And certainly some of that is, as you quite rightly said, is understanding when our customers have issues and how do we work with them, because people will tell more people about a bad experience than they will a good experience. So it's best to understand your customers and understand their needs and how they want to be I guess, dealt with, so to speak. But congratulations, and great to hear that the IT team and your team are working together to do that migration, and great to hear you say the funds coming back in the customer service team, and quite rightly with the new corporate plan. Yeah, there is that commitment in that plan to improve all aspects of engagement, communications, customer service with all of our ratepayers and the people we serve in our region and beyond. So, yeah, well done. Thank you. It was a great report. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Councillor Brimble-Carter.
Great to hear about the website design happening. Question relates to the customer request management. I notice roads are, their statistics are about 50-50, as in within target and overdue. Are their targets the right level set for roads compared to say, an office based and to someone based on the road?
So through the chair, just confirming, are you asking whether the stats there are reflective of things that are being completed in time and then what's overdue?
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have to have different levels for different parts of the organisation?
This probably leads into the work that we've been doing around extending the clocks, and you've heard me a few reports say that we're working on that with the roads team. That's been implemented, and the roads team are now working on the change management and the training. So they've got to change their internal processes slightly to be able to start using effectively the extension to clocks. So they don't hard code anything in the system that says you've got 21 days to grade a road, for example. It's 10 days. But the extra functionality around being able to extend clocks, so when you need to, you might be out grading the road next week, so it's going to be fine, it's going to be done within the time frame. Other times you might not be back there for 3 months, and so what the team has had to do is manage those sorts of things outside the system so that they don't fall through the cracks, but they also go, well, I can't leave this open necessarily for 3 months either until we get around to doing it. So the extension to clocks process has been successfully configured and it's in place. It's just going to take time. So when they've implemented it, they've got to draw a line in the sand and train all of their staff. They're not going to retrospectively, to my knowledge, and General Manager Houlihan, you might be able to add some points in. They're not going to retrospectively go back for the volume of CRMs they've got to extend all the times. But when things start to come in, they're assessing them and being able to extend that clock if they need to, so that these statistics will become more and more accurate as to what they've got on and what's falling overdue. I am aware that they've got a lot of work on at the moment in that infrastructure space as well, having liaised with the team recently. So I'll probably just hand over to General Manager Houlihan if you've got anything else to add.
Thank you, Rebecca. So yeah, just to clarify, so the existing, the statistics shown there are on a 10-day response time. So currently within the system is the 10-day response time of the 1,890 that were received in the quarter. All of those will be entered into the system on the existing 10-day response time, which is unachievable from a road maintenance point of view. Some of those ones, as mentioned, we may plan to be there in 3 months' time. The new facility in the program allows us to defer that time frame to 3 months, and then we will statistically it won't be shown as being overdue based on the response time. So so it's a work in progress. As I said, and as Rebecca mentioned, we currently haven't gone back in the system and looked at the 1,000, 2,000 plus and changed those dates. So they are still showing as overdue. As new ones come into the system, we'll be putting a new due date on those projects.
Okay, follow up from then, with your new times being set, how do you then check that against, how do you, the follow-up of the person responsible for that CRM, how do you then notify them that they're behind or ahead or?
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. So the first part of the process is for the supervisor or the person that receives the request to make contact with the customer, discuss when we anticipate to be in the area. For instance, if we've just left the area and it's a weather event, we might not be back there for 2 months, or we may be able to get a contract grader to go back and fill in the gaps. So the first point is obviously the discussion, setting that expectation of when we'll be there. The follow-up process then is something that we're still working on, so that we get flagged again in the system when it's approaching that time, whether it be 2-3 months down the track, that the system will flag us so we can make contact with the customer again just to confirm or to renegotiate the expectation.
Okay. And follow-up question, I noticed there's not parks and gardens or sporting facilities in amongst the statistics there.
Through the chair, are you talking about volume by department?
Yes.
Yep, they'll be in under community, so that'll be a total of ranges. We can certainly come back with, more specific statistics under the departments. We generally, in the next slides, just show the top 5 by volume, and parks and gardens just by volume don't generally get into the top 5, but we can certainly include more detail for that. And just following on from General Manager Houlihan's comment about flagging those due dates, we do have weekly reporting that's set up that goes to manager level at the moment that shows approaching deadline and within deadlines, and it's an informal trigger. We'd like to get much better in that space in terms of flags, but at the moment we're using reporting to be able to pick up what's within a deadline and what's approaching, because it says the deadline date. So every week they're getting a report of all their active CRMs, so they'll be able to see when something's coming up. And we've also configured into that extending the clock process that there's a task that they have to actually talk to the customer. So it's a final prompter when they're extending the clock. It says, have you notified the customer? And they have to click yes. I mean, it's just a box, but it's there as a visual reminder for them that they need to do that as part of extending the time on any CRM, because it might not be, it might come in today, but it might not be triaged for a day or 2. So it's really important that when they're going to extend that clock, that they make contact with the customer and let them know that that's happening.
Thanks. Thanks, Rebecca and Rachel. The officer recommendation that the Central Highlands Regional Council receive the quarterly customer service update for the period 1st of January 22 to the 31st of March 22. Can I have a move of Councillor Brimblecombe, second Councillor Carpenter? All in favour? Thank you, carried. Thank you very much. And we will go on if Acting GM can introduce the next one, the amendment to the record of proceedings for the community consultation of Behinia, please.
Councillors, this report details the amendment to the record of proceedings from the Behinia Community Consultation Forum that was held at the Behinia Community Hall on the 1st of March of this year. The amendment is in relation to the discussion that occurred regarding the Behinia bin station and the draft waste strategy. I ask the Manager Customer Service to present the item, please.
Thank you, General Manager Coppers. As stated, this report presents several corrections to the record of proceedings that were taken from the Behinia Consult on the 1st of March, specifically Section 6, where Council Officer Kirsten Byrne has discussed the location of a new bin station in Behinia, and also some community consultation that is occurring in April-May this year. The consultation in April-May this year was actually in relation to the waste strategy, the draft waste strategy, that was incorrectly noted in the record of proceedings as in relation to the location of the new bin station. So the corrections there for noting are mentioned in the report, and the amended minutes are attached. I now hand over to the council if there are any questions or comments.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you. So has there been any communication to the community about the actual site?
Through the chair, yes, I've confirmed with Manager, Environment and Planning, that as a close of the meeting, that what was committed in terms of a briefing note and communication to the community, including a map, has been completed.
So councillor's got a briefing note. How was the communication sent out to the community?
Through you, Madam Chair, it was sent out through the CRG group from the community engagement team.
Well, I am on that mailing list and I never received it. So are you definitely certain that it went out?
I'll have to take that on notice. I was advised it did go out to the community.
Unless they just deleted my name off it, but I never saw it through the CRG.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll follow that up as a matter of priority.
Because we've got a briefing note, they may have taken a councillor off it because I got a briefing note, but I just really need to know that communication did go out. Thank you.
Certainly, Kirsten, if you can, check on that and amend as needed. Any other? Yes, Councillor Moriarty.
Just a comment, sorry, just to extend, I apologise, I wasn't at the meeting, I was away, but, and the Untitled Chapter as well is a really effective way of getting a little newsletter that the community do to get out to everyone, just adding.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, certainly. Okay. All right, so the officer recommendation is that the Central Highlands Regional Council receive the amended record of proceedings from the Behinia Community Consultation Forum held in Behinia, at Behinia Community Hall on 1st of March. Do we want to add, Mrs. CEO, anything further to that recommendation?
No, Deputy Mayor, that's fine.
No, thank you. Move that. Councillor Cypher, second. Councillor Carpenter, all in favour of that? Carried, thank you. Thanks, Rebecca and Rachel. Very good. The next item is 13.5, is the Central Highlands Development Corporation SLA agreement, service level agreement. Due to unexpected illness of the presenter, we wish to defer this to a future meeting, Mrs. CEO. So we can have it. Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Acting Chair. So the CEO of CHDC, as stated in the report, was due to present this quarterly update. He had delegated that presentation to one of his officers due to having to be out of town, and that officer is unexpectedly ill and I'm unable to present. So rather than me just put up a written report for council to receive, we thought it would be better to defer the report and enable the CEO of the CHDC to present his verbal update to go with his written update to councillors at the next meeting. So that's the request that I'm putting to council to defer, and procedurally that referral will require a motion with a seconder and a vote and decision of council to defer.
So, Councillor Daniels?
Oh, I was going to say, I'm happy. That's a very sensible approach, and I'm happy to move that. Thank you.
So the resolution there is, we have a seconder that the council defer, Councillor Cypher, defer this report to the next general council meeting. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. So with that, we'll move on to the safety and wellness Q3 update. I'll pass over to the CEO to introduce Gay. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Chair.
Afternoon.
It doesn't need much introduction, so once a quarter we give an update, all things safety and wellness, and I'll hand over to our Manager, Safety and Wellness, Gay Westerberg, to present the report. Thanks, Gay.
Thank you. So yes, good afternoon. I'm providing an information report for the period, the third quarter, so January to March 2022. If I progress in the usual format and look at the external
information that's happened. There's some significant updates in this period, and that was on the 25th of March. The first conviction of an individual for industrial manslaughter in Queensland occurred. So in finding the defendant guilty, the jury was satisfied that there was negligence that had caused the death of a worker, and that was in relation to a fall of heavy equipment. The defendant did note here the negligence was found upon, so the operation of a forklift without a licence. There was no documented health and safety procedures in relation to the use of the forklift to unload heavy equipment. The lifting capacity was actually inadequate for the use of the unloading of the heavy equipment. An exclusion zone was not in place. There was failure to provide proper instruction, training and supervision to the worker and the other worker also involved. And there was also circumstance shared where the unsafe task had been started and then actually requested to be completed. And in addition, there was actually alternative methods in the workplace here that could have been used for unloading that heavy equipment. Following this information and court finding, there has been a request to CHRC leaders with an email sent out to ask them to actually review that all forklift operations within council have licensed operators, and that the documented procedure that we have in our system is being followed, and paying particular attention to that safe and safe unloading of practices. Then we progress on to the next update that's also happened in this period in regard to our workplace health and safety litigators, and that was where a regional Queensland neighbouring council had been fined $75,000 over an incident where a bus driver was hit by a rock projected by from a damaged ride-on mower. So the council did plead guilty, and the court heard here as a part of the business that the council did manage, similar to us, the use of ride-on mowers to maintain the land. In this instance here, though, the rear discharge chute, which had been purchased, that mower in 2016, it had been serviced 4 times before the incident, so that was also in consideration where the court landed. So to provide you some context of this case that is certainly relevant to our work, it is where we had a council employee mowing grass along the edge of a street, and this is where a rock had ejected out of the rear of the mower and broke through the driver's side of a passing school bus and struck the driver in the head. The driver sustained a fractured skull and bleeding on the brain, and actually ended up having to spend 7 days in hospital, and thankfully returned to their role. It was found here that the underdeck of the mower was damaged, with several safety features bent, broken or missing. And importantly, that the discharge flap that was designed to prevent rocks from being ejected was completely worn out. If we progress on to here, the magistrate did note that there had been some systems in place, but did note in the findings that from the council they were not sufficient, and did note why they had been failed to be implemented before the incident. So the council was fined $75,000 and no conviction, and following on from this, we're underway with an investigation internally, linking in with the relevant people using the ride-on mowers, but also pleasingly with our maintenance department, and looking for applications of improvements for our council. The last 2 elements here included in the report are in relation to not litigation but safety alerts and application that we need to apply into council, and one was where a 23,000 litre concrete tank had actually failed, one big failure in a Brisbane school, and so at this point we're actually trying to identify the concrete tanks within council, and then we'll have to go back to the manufacturers to understand these, if they have been manufactured with the steel fibre reinforcement element. So that's actually an identification of the applicable assets is underway for that learning. And then if we progress on for the last learning, was where a young apprentice was killed after being trapped under a hydraulic lift system. And there's a full detailed report being provided but not yet available, so they're still in stages of investigation, but there certainly was an update for us to look at with that. There's actually 2 areas in council that are applicable, very similar situations of that, and we're reviewing the current practices, and we'll keep a bridge of that as the learnings come in from that investigation if we need to update anything for our teams. Internally, our risk register, there's no major updates from Q2 to Q3 for yourselves. And if we progress to emerging issues, these have also been noted in Q2 and could be summarised with the compliance safety. So looking at the clarity of electrical fire safety, that compliance safety and consultation continues to gain agreement on a path forward. And the drug and alcohol procedure is in consultation and under review and continues. If we progress on to outside, we've looked externally at the risk and we've looked internally and some of the trends that we've got there. If we look at actually how did we go with start safe, work safe, home safe for our employees for the reporting period, there are 49 incidents reported. 5 of these related to contractors and 15 to equipment damage, 10 to near misses, and 14 of them related to someone being injured or an illness occurring. The pleasing part here that there was only 2 that resulted in a lost time injury, and if we put this in a comparative lens to the year before in the same reporting period, so previous January to March 2021, we had 56 incidents reported, so slightly down, we're at 49. But in that same period, there was only, so in 2021, 7 near misses reported, and for this reporting period here, we had 10 near misses. So they're the free lessons that we get, and a slight increase in that is a celebration of reporting. Was for the same period in 2021, we had 4 lost time injuries and only 2 for the period that is being provided today. We have had, though, in the same period, 6 incidents that we had to notify. They're listed under the regulation as a notifiable incident to the regulator. And if we classify these up, 2 related to electricity, and of that we've seen 3 improvement notices that were issued to council. 2 of the 6 incidents that were notified to the regulator related to fire, and congratulations to both work groups in that area of prompt, observation and reaction that they really were good news stories. And the last 2 are actually in relation to employees that were admitted into the hospital as inpatients as a part of their normal day. Pleasingly, though, that these situations here unfolded, and despite being admitted as an inpatient, within the same day, we're also out of hospital. If we look at the theme of, for the period of incidents and injuries in this reporting period, muscle stress and falls on the same level, that does include slips and trips, was still the major mechanism of injury for this reporting period. If we look at some of the stats of what we've got in with our insurer, at the point of preparation of the report, the end of March, we had the following claims were in place. That was 1 mental health claim, 2 industrial hearing, 3 back injuries, and 4 upper limb claims. If we progress on to our lag indicators and a provision there, you can see that for this point in time, for the period ending March 2022, our TRIFR has slightly increased and carrying up around 50.7 per million man hours. I think the previous time that it had been slightly higher than that would have been March 2021. Something we need to monitor and, continue on reinforcing about early reporting so that we can react with that to keep them down to a first aid injury, hopefully, of any injured employee. If we look then further afield and go, how are we comparing with our lag indicators compared to the insurer's claims? So our frequency rate of injury is favourable at 8.19 compared to the scheme, but we're at 11.32. But obviously, the 8.19, it's something we can all improve on and something I'm certainly committed to. And then if we look at our duration, so when someone is hurt, at this stage, we're averaging just over 18 days to return someone to work, and compared to the scheme at just nearly at 23 days. It's very exact how they put it, 22.96 days. If we look then at our injury rate, quite comparable, but slightly, 1.14 compared to the scheme average of 1.26. So comparatively tracking favourably compared to our peers in our scheme, but given we're talking about incident frequency, duration, there's obviously still work to do. And then if we can progress now and look at the verification and the consultation for the reporting period. A quarter of hazards that have been reported remain as overdue, and though the pleasing part here that none of those hazards are listed as extreme or high risk. If we progress into our actions, there is 7% of actions at the time of the report that remained at overdue, and of that, so that's a total of 182, and of that, 94 of those actions are risked as high. The Health and Safety Representatives team, we met in February. We did that via Teams, given the impacts of COVID and accommodating for there. And we also welcomed in some new manager representatives into the meeting. During this reporting period, there were 75 risk assessments which were completed relating to plant and equipment used within council, and a big thank you to all people who've been involved in that. That's been a significant amount of work. During the same reporting period, 544 rapid antigen kits were issued across multiple teams within our council. We had observations on targeted manual handling, building into looking for learnings on that theme of muscle stress happening as a reoccurring injury theme, and also looking at reviewing the applicable job dictionaries as trying to be ahead of the curve. During also the same reporting period, 32 immunisations were provided to our employees. That concludes the end of this information report. If there's any questions.
Okay, we must have preempted the concrete tank situation in a town's showgrounds where the cement tank was removed. And it actually collapsed out the back, and they, moved it. So it was obviously beyond its working life. So that was rather fortuitous of us, I think. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gay. Thank you very much to Central Highlands Regional Council for giving us these reports every quarter, because it's really important as leaders of this organisation that we know that the policies that we've got in place lead to procedures that keep our workforce safe. And every employee has the right, and it should be absolutely guaranteed that they return home safe every day from work. And also just wanted to make sure and say, I hope that everything progresses well for any people injured or as part of work with the claims. So thank you very much for open and honest, and thank you very much for all the dedication and the mitigation and the great work that you're doing to make sure that our council's doing everything they can to look after our staff and improve. I just wanted to say that it's very, very important for us to know what's going on in the organisation. Thank you very much for the statistics as well. I think I might have mentioned it a couple of times that it's great to have those statistics there, especially on page 141, where we've got comparisons with, this time last year. It's great to see things going down. It's great to see an increase in those near misses reported. That is so good. It's a really good indication that the culture of the organisation is getting to that space where people are taking responsibility not only for themselves, but it's also for your co-workers and the community as well. So is there any chance that, like the great graph that you've got included in there, that those statistics per quarter, even just for on a rolling basis of just 12 months, so as each quarter's added, that a quarter will drop off, just to help get that picture of over that 12 months, because I really appreciate that. It's great to know that it's going down, but it gives you a bit of an idea of how it's trending, just for at least 4 quarters. That would be excellent if that is possible. And I do want to say that those 75 risk assessments completed is massive. And I just wanted to say, recognise that as well, because I know how much is involved in doing those risk assessments. And the other one I did want to recognise is that thank you for the workplace health and safety that's being done through the organisation, all departments, with the electrical upgrades. You can see that that's all coming through the budgets as well. So thank you for raising those, and we know that that's a priority to make sure that we're supporting any initiatives that are coming through for community facilities, for council assets as well. So, and it's sad to see that there are continuing to be incidents from around electrical safety. I just wanted to note that as well. And great to see that the organisation has been able to access those rapid antigen kits and distribute so many for staff as well, that 544. So, thank you very much, Gay, and we really appreciate the honesty because it's so important for us to know what's happening for staff. Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Council, you asked a question. You wanted to ask a question about the graph. Response.
Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. I'm happy to include another graph. There is a graph down the bottom here that summarises for the rolling from just July through. I can include that as 12 months, or I might even be able to include, I'll just look at it before whether we put the incidents for the 12 months. So you can see there that there's 3 months now for this financial year that we've had lost time injuries, and that's probably a lead indicator, along with, like you rightly said, the great work of the near miss reporting up. They're the free lessons that we're getting at the moment, and a celebration. Thank you. I'll take that as an action.
Thanks, Gay. So, nothing else? So, Central Highlands Regional Council received the quarterly safety and wellness report for the period 1st of January to 31st of March 22. Councillor Daniels moved and seconded Councillor Moriarty. All in favour? Yep. Thank you, carried. Thanks, Gay. So, Mr. CEO, is there any late agenda items or no? General business. Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to put a shout out to the Council for their support for last week in Springsure for the national finals. It exceeded our expectations and we've had nothing but good reports back, feedback. So, and a lot of work did go in behind the scenes from various parts of the council workforce. So thanks to them, that was a big help to us.
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter. Yes, Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you. I just remembered I did have something for just general business. Congratulations to on everything I've heard. Great success, that initiative event, so I should say. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the Emerald North State School, primary school. It was a pleasure to be representing council at their Anzac Day parade. I'm sure councillors right across the region had the opportunity to be with some wonderful youth and school students across the region, but I particularly wanted to say thank you. They were amazing. Every student was engaged. They were just so wonderful, and the whole thing ran perfectly. The students were the student leaders who were doing the emceeing and presenting and all the technology and everything. It was a wonderful day. We had a lovely guest speaker. I just wanted to say congratulations to Emerald North State School for their Anzac Day event, and also I was very proud to be attending the Anzac Day dawn service at Blackwater and Bluff this year, as well as the parade at Blackwater. There were huge numbers at the dawn services, probably I estimated about 500 at Blackwater, and at least conferring with some community members, at least 100 people at Bluff as well. So I just wanted to say, give a shout out to those communities and the school as well. Well done.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty, and I'm sure that every councillor has been to some Anzac parade, whether it be schools or communities, whether it be actually on the day or prior to the day, because we can't fit everything in, councillors. So, yes, so Anzac Day was extraordinary this year. It has been I think it was a little bit of a surprise to a lot of people that Anzac Day is just as good as it was 50 years ago, because they did say that once 100 years are gone, that Anzac Day might just drop off because the return servicemen were not with us, and there was that a fear, I suppose, that it would drop away, but it has been, it's clearly just as good a remembrance to remember those who lost in battles, and very, very well attended all through the region. So thank you to everybody for doing that. So if there's no other general business, I shall close the meeting at 12:47. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Meeting.